You're listening to Well, I Laughed, Part 1 of Identity Theft, Poisonous Postage. You don't, this is just like, I don't know if this is an appropriate question. You don't notice, like, at work if you haven't taken medication for
I
the
do
day?
if I have things to do at work, which
gotcha.
I did not today. So
Gotcha.
I've been messaging my boss every day like, hey, running out of work.
Hey
and then
there.
he was literally like, I was like, let me know if there's anything I can do. I'm running late on work. And he was like, thanks, will do.
Glad you don't work on commission.
Sure. Yeah, but I am billable. So at some point he is going to realize that I am not as billable as I should be. But it worked out in my favor today because I got the rest of these notes done. And they're fucking wild, dude. I figured out a new feature on the recorder thing down there that we're going to use today. I'm not going to tell you until it happens.
Gotcha.
Because it's a surprise. It took me a while to figure it out. And
Good.
it was really satisfying when it happened. Hello, how are you?
I'm good. I'm like sleepy this week. I have officially moved into the new house.
Hell yeah.
And my parents have officially driven back to Nebraska. It was wonderful to have their help, but now it's like I actually got to be in my like daily routine,
Which is hard.
Yeah, which is hard. And also, I feel like this is like a routine I haven't been in since October when I listed my last house for like sale. And you know, it's that concept that we all slowly have to come to terms with, which is that like you are responsible for parenting yourself. And so for me this week, routines have been actually, honest to God, trying to go to bed before like midnight, preparing my lunch in the evening, like instead of like like manically in the morning. It's meant like not eating out for every meal, which is what you do in families in town, and instead eating the like rice and the vegetables in the or like just like the lean protein in your fridge or whatever, and then that's enough. And then as part of that as well, you're like also eating through the leftovers that people left. And so I finally finished the last of the kolaches that my parents purchased while out here. And there was like a walnut sticky bun one. Ooh. And so I'm also having these like silly little treats at like 9 p.m. at night. And
that's definitely good for your sleep.
Yeah, no, for sure it is. And so, so that's what the week's been like. From work perspective, it's fortunately a very slow week, deeply unforgettable. No child has been changed at all by my presence this week. I did beat a child in Connect 4 on Game Pigeon over lunch on Monday.
That is satisfying.
People are shocked at how good I am at that game. And that's kind of it for right now.
I keep getting slyly beat by Maddie. I keep thinking like, oh, I've got her.
Nice.
And then like half the time I'm like, let's just play the game out. No. You got to just go in for the kill. And I feel like even if I went in for the kill, I would still lose, Like she's like 5 steps ahead of me in every Connect 4 game, and it's mildly infuriating.
How are you playing Connect 4 then?
How?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Like, are you just randomly putting pieces down?
No, I have a strategy. I usually wait until there's like a number of pieces on the board. I have like a go-to beginning strategy, but
second move, I have decided part of my strategy already.
See, that's your mistake, though. You have no idea how they're gonna play.
I mean, I'm like, have a pretty good win record in the group
against
right now.
Who? Fucking high schoolers?
Lydia 3 times in a row. Jacob, you and I are, I think, 1-1.
Okay, I beat Jacob and Lydia. Let's go.
Right, so that's what I just said. Same.
Okay.
Also,
I'll send it over tomorrow.
Some of the high schoolers I beat are legitimately going off to like this
Their children. Their children.
Greatest universities.
Their children.
Sure. Children who we can both acknowledge in some areas know more than we do.
Let me have this. What the fuck is wrong with you?
No, it's actually been so great. There's just a little hint as to who are the students that make up my classes. This week, our model United Nations team was in New York for like national whatever. There was a lot of
That's
Italian
wild that
students
you
there.
don't know the name.
Well, it's like,
I feel like you're so close.
What do you call nationals for Model UN when they fly in Polish and Italian delegations as well?
Worlds?
Okay, great. And so they're that. And then our constitutional law team is in Washington, D.C. competing at the national tournament for con law. And that means no one's in my class.
Oh, yeah. This is fair. This is fair.
Yeah. It's also so funny because these kids are little business people, which granted, based off the 2 extracurriculars I just listed, and I teach them in speech and debate, that doesn't shock anyone.
No.
But I'm getting emails at like legitimately midnight East Coast time being like, "Hi, Mr. Thomas. I had a chance this evening to review your comments on my new introduction, and here are some of my things that I think we can move forward from here on," right? And it's like, kid, it's midnight on a school trip on the East Coast, and you are
he still has
emailing me?
things to do, obviously.
Oh, you know the boys on my team. You know it's not a boy. You know it's
Yeah,
all
it's not a
girls who are
boy.
emailing me right now.
That's fair. That's wild.
So I'll have some time for some game pigeon tomorrow is what I'm
Okay,
trying to
excellent.
say.
Yeah, I'll message you. I should too. I took headshots at my office on Thursday, and sometimes I'm modeling, right, and I'm like, God, this is easy, and like, no, it's not. It's truly not. Modeling is one of those things where it's like, if you're comfortable in front of a camera, you can do it, but then it becomes really hard to be good at modeling from there. It's like, which one is it that's easier to learn and harder to get good at? I think it's skiing. Like, there's the inverse. Skiing is easier to like learn right away, but then hard to get good at. And then snowboarding is hard to learn, but then easier to get good at.
Okay.
Modeling is like skiing, where it's like, if you can like be in front of a camera and be okay, you're there, babes. But then getting good at it is really hard. But taking these headshots for these people, I really thought would be a lot easier. And it was still easy, but
Oh, they're ugly.
no, they're not even ugly. It's just that
Why were they ugly, Maya? No, I'm kidding.
there's this one guy, and he's like just the sweetest guy, and I've never thought of him as like maybe being awkward in front of a camera, but he literally, like, have you ever watched Friends? Chandler from Friends, where he sits in front of the camera and he has this beautiful smile, but then as soon as the camera's pointed at him, he goes like full grimace.
I mean, I know what you're talking about. I have seen at this point in my life literally thousands of school photos as part of my job, so I do understand what you're talking about.
Yes, exactly. But so he did that, and like he was like, so I'm not super great in front of a camera, and then I was like, yeah, that's fine, like we'll figure it out. And then he sat down and was just like the most awkward smile, and it's hard to tell someone like fix your smile, so I like tried to like get him to giggle a couple times, and we got some good ones, but it's just so funny how uncomfortable some people are in front of the camera, and I just forget that sometimes.
I love that because I think replace modeling with teaching in that sentence, and that's also still true. Like, if you can stand in front of a group of teenagers and like not cry,
No.
like you can do the job of teaching. You want to be good at teaching? Oh, that's a different conversation.
This is super fair. On my way home every day now, I drive past my elementary school.
Cute.
No, it's not.
Oh, okay.
Religious elementary school, if you're new here.
Right.
And they have, I don't know who they have writing their like little billboard thing that sits in front of the school, but I think it like must rotate between like some Gen Zer and like some like pastor, right?
Good.
Because today I was driving home and it said, I don't remember which apostle it was. It was like apostle blankety blank murderer. It was like two very divisive like statements, like murderer or like benefactor or something like that. And I was like, what?
We talked to our congregation about who they voted for in the last election.
I was like, Jesus Christ. Literally. And then this is the one that I saw the other day. Are you ready for this?
Yes.
YOLO, LOL, JK, BRB. Jesus.
Yeah. Hold on, that's actually profound.
I think that was on Ash Wednesday.
Hit me with that again.
YOLO, LOL, JK, BRB.
I am not even joking. I might get that tattooed on me. I'm rediscovering religion. That's crazy to me. That's beyond.
I saw that and I was like,
did you see this
what?
study, by the way, that
No.
Gen Z men are more likely to report being religious than Gen Z women or millennial men or women?
What?
Listen, I know you're like right on the cusp of being a millennial, so you can bask in our glory if you want. The millennial generation is the next greatest generation. That's what I'm going to say it right now. I know you didn't.
Even
okay.
Identifying if I identify as a millennial.
Which is a deeply millennial thing to say.
Yes, it doesn't feel good.
Here's the thing. The reason why we are the way we are is because when the 2008 financial crisis and then Great Recession happened, YouTube was full of like the fruit salad yummy videos. And when
an annoying orange.
Right.
Yeah.
And when your generation went through pandemic, Andrew Tate was there being like, did you know you could hate women as a personality? And that's a big difference between our generation.
That is a big difference.
That's why we're funny and have HSAs. And you guys
I have
can't
an
date
HSA
anyone.
and am funny.
Okay, you don't even identify as a Zennial, so why are you mad right now?
I do identify as I literally am a Zennial. Definitely. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know where I'm at.
Join us in Patreon for an after-hours conversation on Gen Z v Millennial. I actually do have a question for you on that.
Oh, Jesus. Okay.
So I'm going to share this because I think it's relatively anonymous. My new home is across the street from a school. And not a high school. You don't want to bring work home with you.
No,
right?
that's weird.
It's a under school, middle school, elementary schole, parochial,
Under-school.
library, maybe. Who knows?
Maybe it's a nursery.
Thank you, John Mulaney. Legitimately best neighbors I have ever had. Ever. And I've lived a lot of places at this point. I've had the great fortune of living in at least 4 states, if you count DC as a state, which of course I do. Have had loads of different living situations. No one has ever been better than a school across the street. They're so quiet all the time. It's a smaller school, so there's like not a lot of traffic, but it's also like as soon as school ends in the evening, no one is on the street. There's no cars parked outside. It's just so wonderful.
I realized when I went to go visit Grant at his new place that he is uncomfortably close to my high school.
Actually in the enrollment district for your high school.
I think I remembered that I recognized the name of the school that you're across from because it was like an evacuation zone for active shooters.
Probably.
Yeah.
It's
and
also
I was like, oh, so this is what it would have looked like.
You also definitely went to school with kids who went to the school that's across the street from my house now.
I did. Yeah. That's another reason I realized I remembered it.
Yeah. You're part of our future. I'm part of your past. What now, girl?
I literally drive past my elementary school every day. I don't think I need more trauma. Like, can we all just...
My house is even great too because the front of my house faces the school, but there's a way to kind of go through like an alley and then you can exit that way. So the only thing that even is potentially bad about my house being across the street from the school is early morning drop off. And one,
You're
leaving my
awake.
house. Right, I'm already awake and I'm already leaving my house before drop off really happens because I have to get downtown. But two, I don't even have to drive by it if I don't want to. I can go through like a little alleyway, like literally the perfect situation.
You're actually describing my nightmare.
I'm sorry. I liked it because it was like, well, first when I was buying the house, I was like, look at all this free evening and weekend parking for all of the soirees that I host. And now I'm like, wait, it's benefits 24/7. And it is.
Sure.
It's nice.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm glad that you think that.
I've been taking a nap every day in my living room, and it's been so nice. I've been legitimately woken up by my alarm every day and not like a car or like...
Did that happen?
At my old house?
Yeah.
All the time. All the time. I never complained.
Did you grow up near like a busy road or anything,
No.
or was it a quiet? Oh, that's why.
Yeah, and I didn't complain ever because I'm like, I work hard not to be a Karen.
Oh yeah.
But like, people were going to work, blasting music at the level they need to get through the day. Heard, felt, seen,
Fair.
Understood. But I was asleep. And now I'm not.
Yeah, the house that I grew up in from like second grade to when I went to college, like backed up to a major thoroughfare. And so until the loud noise keeps going for more than like 30 seconds,
right,
I'm fine. Everything's fine. There was a person that lived behind us at our townhouse that would just rev their car or motorcycle engine for like hours. And I would, like, at some point I would have to go up to Casey and be like, am I crazy? Have they been revving their engine for 20 minutes?
Am I losing my mind right now?
And then Casey, he had like the vantage point from his office, like down into our little alleyway, the one that you use to escape children in the morning.
Right.
We're peeking down and they're like filming some Instagram video of this guy's like motorcycle as he like revs and does like little tiny circles. Exhausting. Anyway, we now live in a semi-quiet area.
Yeah. No, this will be the last thing I say because like traffic is not a fun conversation to listen to. I thought I was some sophisticated fancy city slicker because my apartment when I lived downtown when I was like in my early 20s was basically right on 13th, which if you have a heart attack anywhere east of Broadway, 13th is the road the ambulance is taking to get back to the hospital. So I used to hear sirens all the time at night and then that wasn't an issue at all. And so for a little bit I was like, oh man, I've lost my edge. And I'm like, oh no, I've just lost my 20s. Like I'm not 22 and hungover drunk at like 2 in the morning on a Friday night where I can just sleep through anything. I can't eat a whole calzone and then fall asleep in 60 seconds, which is things I did when I was 23. If I eat a whole calzone now, I'm not seeing sleep until Monday.
I'm not seeing sleep until Monday. When I first moved into like the city, it was like an adjustment period of hearing sirens and stuff like that because I lived in Golden prior, and so like. But then I went to New York City that one time and like the number of sirens that we experience in Denver, there is no spot in Denver that is as loud as anywhere in New York City. Those people use their horns to communicate with each other. Like not even, it could just be like, hey, how are you? I'm pretty sure with the frequency that they're honking at each other. It was insane. That being said, I want to go back. So
you learn your second language.
Yeah.
YOLO, LOL.
JKBRB.
Jesus. So that's it for my life right now. I'm feeling really good. I'm feeling excited about this.
Yeah.
More so than in several of the last episodes. You have like pre-talked this episode.
Oh, I'm excited about this episode.
Because that was what we were doing in our single-digit episodes. But now we're in our triple-digit episodes.
Oh, God. Yeah, this is 103, I think.
It's not super hard to get to 10 episodes. So double digits is pretty easy to hit. Triple digits. I think you and I can
feels
both
like a lot, and we're
feels like a lot.
If we ever get to 4 digits, you guys check in on us.
Yeah, if we ever get to 4 digits, yeah. Imagine.
I was looking at when I was doing like all my market research. There's a few podcasts I know that have gotten to 4 digits, quadruple digits.
Right.
But those are like, and every time I saw that, I was like, Jesus fucking Christ!
Right.
Like. I think, actually, I don't know where Joe Rogan's at. I thought he was maybe in 600s, but I could be wrong. But every time I came across that, I was like, check on these people.
Yeah.
Are they okay? Like, sometimes they're releasing multiple times a day. They're like short episodes, but it's still like, and it's usually like NPR, like
for New York Times
stuff.
This is the Daily.
Yes, yeah.
I'm
well,
Ezra
I
Klein.
listen to Up Next from NPR, but it's perfect because it's 15 minutes and it takes like 16, 17 minutes to get to work.
Here's how old I am. I have been listening to NPR's hourly news updates because of the stock market this week.
I've been actually trying not to look at my retirement fund. Casey is the only one that really, between the two of us, has enough money to put in the stock market. And I think he pulled it all out the other day.
Oh.
I have some money in it. It's just not like a significant amount.
I'm now, you guys pulled at its low. You're going to reinvest at its peak. Fools. It's their first financial recession. You got to give them.
It literally wasn't my choice. He doesn't control my money. It's his choice. He can do whatever he wants.
No, I know. And Casey's like smart and conservative in a good way about that. I'm sure he knows what he's doing.
Less things.
Yeah.
I think he probably just didn't diversify
sure
as much. Anyway, I have a great story for you today that I've been excited about since December when the docuseries came out on Netflix. And
I was like, I already did Liza Minnelli because that documentary is like now available on Hulu. The Liza documentary.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I saw it advertised last night. So for half a second, I was like, I've
we already did this.
Oh, there's other documentaries out there?
I hate you.
That's crazy. I'm hearing this for the first time.
Literally, you're exhausting. You're so tiring.
Now you know how I feel. I'm sleepy.
I'm literally always tired. I'm clinically depressed, Grant. Okay, so we're starting out with a chemistry lesson. Do you know what castor oil is?
It goes in your car, right?
Sure. I don't know.
Okay. I don't know why you're asking me then.
Primarily, it's used in medicines and cosmetics. It can be used as a lubrication.
Okay.
But I think it's mainly used in cosmetics. It's been growing in popularity for the last 25 years. I think like production on it has increased like, I don't know, several 100% over the last 25 years, maybe 1,000%. Its uses are in laxatives, in wound ointments, soaps, moisturizers, and in lubricants. And it's also in hair products. And people will advertise that it stimulates hair growth, but there's not a lot of science to back that up. So also just a note before I get into any of this, please don't use castor oil by itself. I said it's used in these products, not as these products.
Or health professionals here to tell you about the amazing health properties of castor oil.
There are TikTok girlies out there that are like, oh my God, this made my hair grow like a foot overnight. Don't do it. Don't do it. We don't actually understand.
Imagine if I was the spokesperson.
With your Danny DeVito wig. Just a single foot.
It's so funny. Anytime anyone finds it, they put it on. My mom put it on when she was unpacking. Lydia and Jacob came over to see part of the house.
I put it on.
Immediately put it on. Everyone puts it on.
It's a good wig.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, like the volume of it is impeccable. So the production of castor oil. Do you know what it's made from?
No.
Okay. It's
The
actually
castor plant?
Wow. The production of castor oil is very intensive for a number of reasons. The castor oil is derived from the castor plant, specifically the castor beans/seeds. That term can be used kind of interchangeably because it's some people call them seeds, some people call them beans.
I was right?
Yeah.
You should have given me more credit when I guessed
I just wanted to be a dick.
Sorry. Keep going.
I'm choosing violence today, Grant.
My brain caught up and I was like, wait, hold on. That's what I just said.
Yeah.
She lied to me, but with her tone.
Yeah, because I literally said yes. The production of castor oil is very intense for a number of reasons. Castor oil is derived from the bean/seeds. The plant itself has a very strict climate requirement that limits the like areas in which it can grow, which is part of the reason it's so intense. It's like harder to get the product. But also the production of castor oil from the plant has a lot of dangers associated with it.
Oh, okay.
You literally have to like smash the seeds down and slowly produce oil. It has been used and has been known to humans since prehistoric times. They know this because of like the hulls of the seeds in various like artifacts, I believe.
Okay.
Because of that, we also know that we as humans have known about the castor plant's toxicity for nearly as long.
Oh.
Mm-hmm. But we didn't know.
Oh, that makes me excited. I don't know. I'm literally grasping onto nothing. I'm just kind of in general excited about a potential poisoning.
Yeah. So we knew that it was toxic. I think humans in general knew that it was toxic, and there was parts of it that were toxic, but not parts of the oil. But we didn't know exactly what about the castor plant or the bean/seeds were toxic until research specifically into the toxicity of the plants began in earnest in the late 1800s in Germany. So a few scientists are able to extract the toxic component of the seeds, but in extracting it, the component that they thought it was lost its toxicity as like once it was extracted. And so finally, in 1888, German scientist Peter Hermann Stillmark was able to finally extract the toxic component, maintaining its toxicity. And the result is named ricin.
Okay. I've definitely heard of ricin.
Good.
Also, love that they were like, God, this plant, it's not poisonous enough. And it's the Germans who are trying to figure that out.
And maybe we all chill.
Here are the cards. Now they're on the table.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So ricin is a substance that's 6,000 times more poisonous than cyanide. This
6,000 times more poisonous. Okay.
Than cyanide. So I'll tell you the trigger warnings after I get through this little section about the poisoning, or the poison itself. But as a brief trigger warning here, I'm about to talk about poisoning and the side effects of poisoning. And there'll be brief mentions, but nothing gory, at least in my opinion. Grant seems to have a weaker stomach to these things than I do. But we're going to talk about how the body shuts down in response. So the primary method, but I'll give you we have a couple bullet points before we get there, so don't worry. The primary method of getting oil from the castor seeds is by pressing or crushing the seeds, which releases the oil. So the remainder of the seed following the pressing, they call it the mash. Some people call this the castor cake. This is where the ricin is. But after like one press, there's still a ton of oil left in the castor cake or the mash. And so there's like a continuous process of like pressing the mash with new seeds to get as much oil as you can. And then there's still a purification process that happens after that.
It's a little bit like extra virgin, and olive oil.
Something like that. I've never actually fully understood that.
Oh, I can tell you.
Yeah, tell me.
First squeeze of the olive, that's extra virgin. Second squeeze, virgin. Any squeeze after that.
I saw an old wives' tale, at least I hope it's an old wives' tale, where they would actually have virgins squeeze the oil out of olives. And I'm not saying I believed that, but in my head, that is canon.
If you have access to high quality olive oil, in my opinion, you're not staying a virgin for long.
That was good. That's good advice.
It's kind of coming out of my like sweet mist, like emerging through the clouds.
Yeah.
You told me
like
poisoning and something inside me
like,
awoken.
yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Okay. So anyway, the mash or the castor cake, that is where the ricin is, but it requires more pressing and purification on both ends before ricin can be used effectively as a poison or before castor oil can be used effectively as an oil. Especially because affecting the toxin in certain ways, which we'll talk about later, decreases the efficacy of ricin as a toxin or as a poison. And so the possession of ricin itself can be led to being charged, at least in the United States, with possession of weapons of mass destruction or conspiracy to produce a weapon of mass destruction or domestic terrorism. So I'm not going to get into the details of explicitly how you produce ricin. It took me maybe one too many trips down deeper into the rabbit hole before I realized I probably shouldn't have this as like history on my web browser. And also I'm definitely on a list. At some point I got to something that was someone was asking how to make ricin, and like the responses were like, if you have to ask, you're already on an FBI watch list. And I was like, oh.
And you're like, oh, why do they keep saying this every time I go to, okay, for real, how to make ricin set?
Yeah. My NSA, like, watch person is like, stop.
I would love it if you're just entrapping yourself.
I think I might be. Hopefully they see the rest of my Google searches and they understand what I was doing, but we'll see. So the process of producing ricin comes from destroying the castor bean in and of itself. So if you were to take a castor bean and swallow it whole, you would be fine. Okay. Most likely. If you were to take a castor bean and chew it, you would most likely die. Because that releases the ricin and can kill you. However, producing ricin in and of itself to like use to poison someone else, that's where it becomes really tricky. 500 micrograms of ricin, which is about the size that would fit on the head of a pin, is enough to kill a person. Okay. And it can kill you. It probably won't kill you if it's like rubbed on your skin, but it definitely will at least affect your health if you inhale it, ingest it, or inject it. And it'll probably kill you within about 36 to 72 hours due to failure of your respiratory system or circulatory system.
So you have enough time to get out of there.
Or you might not know what's happened until it's too late.
No, if you're trying to poison someone, you have enough time to get out of there.
Yeah, so the people that are, they're fine, probably. So unfortunately, there is also no specific test for exposure to ricin and no antidote or antitoxin. So if you're exposed, it's just like...
lights out for you.
It's lights out, or you get to a hospital fast enough where they can give you medications to try and reverse some of the side effects that will end up ending your life. But it's not looking good, friend.
Like even like a juice cleanse, like it's not helping.
No. Good God.
Let's get some plum juice in me. Let's get this system cleaned out.
It's cranberry juice.
Don't think it's gonna hurt.
Okay.
Have you had plum juice? We don't need to go further. Continue.
The only thing you can do to get ricin out of or off of your body, the only thing you can do is to get ricin out of or off of your body as quickly as possible and get medical care to reduce the effects of the poisoning, aka assisting with breathing, giving IV fluids, medications for blood pressure, seizures, or flushing, pumping someone's stomach. So ricin is, for my chemistry girlies out there, is a lectin classified as a type 2 ribosome inactivating protein. The inactivation of the ribosomes is irreversible. So essentially what that does is it'll go into your cells and there's like a little little dude. It's called a ribosome that will take the half strand of your DNA. It's called mRNA. That your DNA strand will like cut off a piece, like copy it, send it into the ER, I believe, where the ribosome is, and the ribosome will copy that. Will read that piece of mRNA. Piece by piece. So every 3 codons, I believe, equals 1 protein. So it'll go down the piece of mRNA, putting together the protein that your cell needs. And so by inactivating that protein, your cell can now no longer take care of itself, which will then lead to apoptosis, aka like intentional cell death on the part of the cell. The cell's like, deuces, can't take care of myself, I'm out. And so that's essentially what will slowly shut down your entire body.
Oh.
Yeah. So, not good. While it's undoubtedly toxic to humans, there is the potential for its targeted use in killing cancer cells. But that's like in development. Like,
sure,
yeah,
could see.
Yeah. Don't go just like...
Highly targeted.
Yeah. There's a lot of work to be done. Maybe, I don't know how far they are. That's just something I ran across. It was used for the first time in like recorded history for an assassination in 1978, the assassination of Bulgarian dissident and author Gregory Markov, who was, I believe, exiled from Bulgaria because of he was a rebel. Yeah, I think so. Yes. And he was living in London at the time. And he was jabbed with the tip of an umbrella while waiting for a bus in London and then died 3 to 4 days later.
Whoa.
Yeah. It was later found out that the umbrella's tip was designed specifically to inject a poison ricin pellet under his skin, and the pellet remained in the wound, ultimately causing his death.
What?
Yeah.
So he like gets stung, basically.
Yeah.
They have to, because like on your skin alone is not enough to do it. They have to like get it
inject
in
it
him.
A little bit, yeah.
Interesting.
Isn't that crazy?
Because they're also probably trying to get like be unnoticed by it.
Mm-hmm. So the reason that we know this, I'm not
in
sure.
1978? Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
No, yeah. The reason that we know that now, I'm not sure if they knew at the time that was how he died. I do believe he ended up in the hospital shortly thereafter and then died in the hospital. But in the 90s, defectors from the KGB confirmed that that umbrella was designed by the Soviet Union and given to an agent hired by the Bulgarian government to kill him.
Wow.
Wild.
I love that kind of stuff.
And fascinating.
I've increasingly become more and more obsessed with like Agatha Christie stories.
Yes,
yeah.
right? I'm obsessed. And then another trigger warning. This is where we're going to get into the body's reaction to the poisons. So skip that if you want. I don't know. I'll have another full few bullet points, but
you get to skip it. I don't. So
yeah, no, you don't. you sit right there. So of course I can't talk about ricin without recognizing that the U.S. did attempt to use it as a biological weapon of warfare. They considered coating bullets with it, but part of the reason ricin is kind of difficult to purify from the castor bean is because when it hits a certain temperature, it stops being toxic. And so when it's combined with like gunpowder and the reaction of a gun, it's far too hot at that point. I believe it loses efficacy at temps over 80 degrees Celsius. And I tried to do some research on how hot a bullet gets. Really kind of hard to get. And of course, my web history is not good right now.
Heat signature of gun use.
Yeah.
How to make world's deadliest poison. For real.
Search.
Dark web. Search.
They also considered using it as a dust cloud of toxin, which would arguably be super effective, but then they nixed it because there is no antitoxin that they can give to anyone. If they were to accidentally be exposed or that is a one-way street.
I love that the U.S. is like, obviously we're willing to commit crimes against humanity, but not if it's going to hurt our capitalist system of production. Do you know how hard that would be to enroll all those people?
Say it to Trump, please. I'm begging you.
There's a Twitter account. Mm-hmm. Someone shared this with us for Liza Outlives. I think it's Blue Sky, not Twitter. But there's a Blue Sky account, and it's just, did he die today? And every day they have posted no.
Well.
And that's all I have to say about that.
Continuing off of Grant's little not questionable statement at all, there was someone that was like, I want anyone to tell us one thing that they hope happens in 2025. Mm-hmm. And it just cut to someone like looking at the camera going, and then everyone in the comments was like, imagine being hated so much that we all had like the same collective
that's
thought.
That's all it takes.
Silence. Okay. I'm on that list. I
Fully
Googled
on
too
that
many
list.
things.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so it's also possible that the U.S. did use it in the 80s in Iraq. Not confirmed, obviously, because the government would never admit to doing anything
That
wrong.
the U.S. used it in the 80s in Iraq? Okay.
That was a couple of sources said it's possible that happened.
Okay.
But it definitely has been used by terrorist organizations more recently, according to several sources. Other countries have also studied the possibility of using ricin as a biological method of warfare, but have kind of all nixed it for the same reasons, that it's not super effective to use on a large scale, it's hard to manufacture, and there are other things that are other toxins and poisons that are less limited, like botulinum toxin A, which I learned is actually Botox, and also a poison. Because it like freezes your muscles.
What is wrong with us as a species where we're like, but this deadly thing in small quantities?
We found out how to ferment grapes, and then from there it was like over, I think. And so now ricin, when used, obviously we can't promote the use of it ever, but when it is used as a weapon, it is used for small scale or personal attacks or
like assassinations.
Assassinations, yes. It's not used for large scale biological warfare. So if you don't want to hear the symptoms of ricining poisoning, this is where you'll skip forward like 2 minutes. I don't know. If ingested, the symptoms will present within 10 hours of exposure. The subject may experience nausea, vomiting, severe dehydration, low blood pressure, internal bleeding of the stomach and intestines, seizure, failing of the liver, spleen, and kidneys, and then death by the collapse of the circulatory system. Toxicity to humans and animals increases approximately 1,000-fold when the exposure is by inhalation or injection versus what I just talked about, which is ingestion. If inhaled, smaller particles, ironically, so 1 to 5 micrometers in diameter, are more toxic because they can penetrate deeper into your lungs than larger particles. So symptoms can present as early as 4 to 8 hours after exposure or as late as 24 hours after exposure. Early symptoms are difficulty breathing, fever, cough, nausea, tightness in the chest, and eventually symptoms will escalate to heavy sweating, fluid buildup in the lungs, blue skin, low blood pressure, respiratory failure leading to death. And then if injected, obviously that death happens a lot quicker. Especially if it's an effective poison that you're using or a large amount of it. Ricin can cause immediate death to the muscles and lymph nodes near the injection site, followed by major organ failure and then likely death.
Wow.
So not fun.
No.
Either way. Yeah. But not like immediate either, but still like just as like chilling. But luckily, the process by which castor oil is made is not one that's easily replicated by your everyday use, by your everyday Joe. That being said, it is easier than like a lot of other toxins.
Like I have no idea where I would start with cyanide. Like where do I even begin?
I am pretty sure you can order pills.
No, that's not really.
I don't know. All I know is that if you smell almond in anything and you shouldn't smell almond, that's cyanide.
Okay.
So that I don't know why I know that.
I was going to go ahead and chalk that up to a lot of the fantasy that you read.
FBI agent, please no. True crime girlies know this.
Listener, earlier at the start of this episode, Maia gave me a sip of her sparkling water, and she has not sipped out of that can since.
Have I not?
We go down together. It's just you and me, Jack. Right?
I've also drank so much more of it than you.
You jump, I jump, right?
Oh, God. They deserve more time.
Okay, don't hit me with my favorite trope right now. I still think about that book like once a week. I'm like, they don't even know that I read that book. Like, that's legitimately how I feel sometimes. I'm like, they don't even know their world could be ruined. It's so good. Please continue.
Oh, my God.
Alexander Heeman, The World and All That It Holds. All I'm going to say. Continue.
And I've been reading Us Dark Few and Us Deadly Few, 10 out of 10.
I thought you were going to say Us Weekly. And I was like, yes, queen. Get it.
I think I talked about it on the episode that released maybe this week. And I was like, I don't know how spicy it is. I don't know if the series is done. I can't answer it. Not super spicy. The story is great, though. And it's also not finished. And literally didn't finish the book, I think, until yesterday because I got to like 93% on the second book and realized there was no way in hell this story was wrapping up. Did a quick Google to see when book 3 was releasing. There was not even a release date, and I was like,
I'm so sorry.
I was like, oh no, this is not gonna end well.
Oops.
It didn't.
I am really sorry.
So now I have to wait an undisclosed amount of time to find out what happens to those characters. It's fine. I'm fine. Everything's fine. So anyway, the process by which castor oil is not easily replicated by your average Joe, but it is hard enough to prevent someone, but it's also not hard enough to prevent someone who has the brains and the determination to make a poison.
Sure.
Here's a quote from a study published in a 2016 journal article on the creation of castor oil. Quote, although the castor bean processing method can typically be considered a simple process, it can also be complicated if the operators are unaware of its exact processing parameters and operating procedures. So even producing the castor oil itself is difficult, which makes, obviously by default making ricin hard. And so you can imagine the total panic caused when ricin was found in a letter addressed to President Barack Obama in 2013.
Right.
And I fully recognize that I did a story not that long ago that opened with a presidential assassination. Here we are.
Which one?
JFK.
Right. Okay.
Good.
We produce a lot of content.
You've also had a lot of life happen between now and then. I'm not going to agree with you and say that it was that long ago because it wasn't. But in general, trigger warnings for today, I'll have them. I've made sure to incorporate them into my notes, a few bullets before the actual mention happens, so that you have time to get your phone out to skip it. But there's mentions of assassination attempt via poisoning, obviously. There will be very brief mentions of a suicide and sexual assault of a minor. Those are brief. They're not huge plot points, but they will be mentioned. And then the big one is mentions of dead bodies and body parts. This one is going to be throughout. So I'll do my best to give trigger warnings before I mention the one big one. None of them are that gory. It's mostly just hey, this happened. And then references to that for the rest of the story. Just so you know. Back to the story. This next section I called The Letter. This is the section that we're going to be talking about the attempted assassination, and then there will also be a mention of the Boston bombing. On April 10th, 2013, Lee County, Mississippi, around 9:30 a.m., the sheriff's office receives a call that a letter has been sent to one of the Justice Court justices, 80-year-old Sadie Holland, and it contained suspicious content, something that she described as it seemed like sand inside of the envelope. It contained a grainy substance, which Sadie remembers having the texture of sand. I don't believe she actually touched it. I'm not 100% sure.
But it's on the paper and stuff.
Yes,
yeah.
It's in the envelope. And she remembers thinking the letter didn't smell right. And so one of her clerks called the sheriff's office. And the letter itself was typed and included a death threat. Sadie recalled...
To this 80-year-old judge?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Sadie recalled, quote, it said something to the effect, I tried to talk to you and you would not listen. Now it's time that someone must die. That's her remembering the letter.
It's you don't know, but it's a man.
Yeah, I'm not even going to hold that one close to the vest. Yeah, it's a fucking man.
If it was more eloquent or mysterious or had a greater motive, but just
now you must die.
I tried to convince you that I was right. You, woman, had your own opinion. Die. She doesn't, right?
No, she doesn't.
Sorry,
no,
I'm like, ooh, what a really tasteless joke if she does.
There was a moment where I was doing the research where I did think she died, but that's just because she's not alive today, not because she died from this.
It's because she was 80 in 2013.
13, yeah. And then the letter was signed off. I am Casey, and I approve this message. The letters K and then C. Initials.
No relation to husband.
No relation to husband.
Well, we gotta ask.
Can you imagine? This is how I tell you I found out that my husband is a domestic terrorist.
I have yet to see him today. He was not here when I walked in.
Oh, the dogs are back, which means he's back.
Oh, okay.
He was taking them on a walk when you came in. Okay, so that was April 10th. So 6 days later, April 16th, 2013. another letter is found having been sent to a U.S. Senator for Mississippi, Senator Roger Wicker, who's a Republican. The letter preliminarily tested positive for a poison called ricin at an off-site mail facility at the U.S. Capitol. Do you know why letters are now screened off-site?
I think it was 2003, wasn't it? And Oscar de la Renta. No,
That was so good. As soon as you said 2003, I was going to correct you, and then I was like, he's doing a bit.
There was an anthrax poisoning attempt during the Bush administration.
2001.
Yeah, okay. So Bush administration, though.
Ever since the 2001 anthrax attacks, all mail for members of Congress and the White House is handled off-site before being taken to the people they are addressed to. During that anthrax attack, 5 Americans were killed and 17 were sickened.
When I interned in Washington, D.C., summer of 2012, for my state's last Democratic senator, before I then left the state, we received as interns like day 1 AM session training on if you open an envelope and there's like sand at the bottom or there's like powder. That's, I think I kind of always have vaguely known that almond thing, but you don't think about it until like,
Anthrax
why does this
is
envelope
from...
smell like lotion? But it's like like
that
people
if
have
something
been,
smells off.
Correct. AKA your number one job, intern, is to open up all these letters that no one wants to open, and they might kill you. Tell your parents thank you, and thank you for serving your country. Your other job will be to give tours and then when the real people go off to lunch, you get to sit on the phone and be yelled at by average Americans.
Honestly, where do I sign up?
No, you they get mean and personal.
No, I wouldn't handle that well. I was stalling so that I could reset the timer.
Good.
We have a cameo.
Oh, good. Okay, cool.
Sorry. Okay. So during that anthrax attack, 5 Americans were killed, 17 sickened. And then the next day, April 17th at 8:30 p.m., I'm not actually sure on the actual timeline here, but 8:30 p.m. is when the FBI released a statement that another similar letter was found addressed to President Barack Obama. Again, tested at an offsite facility for the U.S. Capitol, but you can imagine that things were tense. I don't even think the connection to Steve Holland was made until after they had realized it was sent to the president.
Okay.
But like sent to one senator, they're like, shit, that's a problem. Sent to the president of the United States, all of the alarms are going off.
Right.
All like the White House is getting evacuated. DC is getting evacuated. They're shutting down these mail centers. Like there's breaking news across every news outlet that like a potentially poisoned letter has been sent to the president of the United States.
This was, listener, I understand, especially if you're one of our younger listeners, you might not understand. This was during a time when like only one bad thing a day would happen. And so you could really kind of focus on one bad thing.
This happened 2 days after the Boston bombings.
Oh, I don't remember that.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember that. I don't remember that timeline, to be clear.
I don't either, but I was like, oh, Grant.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this sparks panic. Again, the letters to Roger Wicker and Barack Obama featured similar language. One of the quotes being, "To see a wrong and not expose it is to become a silent partner to its continuance." And then all of the letters were signed off with, "I am KC and I approve this message." So it sparks panic among elected officials and government representatives, and there are a number of suspicious packages and letters that are turned over to the police for further testing. And if any of those tested positive for any poison or if anything came of those ones, I don't know. I don't believe so. I think these are the only ones that tested positive for ricin. Also, just to like be super clear, there are preliminary tests for ricin, but because it's like a biological component, there are more tests that have to happen. It's like when we all had to take those tests for COVID, and like the first test is like really kind of if it says positive, like you might still not have it. It's the same thing here. They had to go and get like confirmed to be tested positive for ricin later. And to add some additional color here, this was less than 2 days after the bombing at the Boston Marathon. Luckily, the FBI, I think, were very quickly able to rule out any connection between the two events. But obviously, people's minds were
heightened national security.
Yeah, for sure. One of the people to receive a suspicious hand-delivered letter was Joe Manchin, a Democrat from West Virginia, who said after the fact, and here I quote, I'm just tickled to death everybody's safe. Joe. Now is not the fucking time to say that.
He's from West Virginia, though. Like that's
I'm
that
just
feels
tickled to death.
That feels authentic.
Yeah, I know it does, but I read that and I was like, wait a minute.
Everybody's all right.
Everybody's all right. We're all healthy here. Okay, so the letters are very quickly traced back to a man named Paul Kevin Curtis of Mississippi. And by the evening of April 17th, Paul, aka the same day that the FBI released a statement that Barack Obama had been targeted, he has been arrested for the attempted assassination of President Barack Obama. So Paul, so his middle and last name's Kevin Curtis, KC, the initials, was known to local law enforcement and was known to write frequent letters to government politicians, local newsletters for various things.
Right.
And so if the shoe fits, was kind of their attitude. But who is Paul Kevin Curtis? Don't worry, listener. We're going to get into it. Here are my sources. So these are some of the supplementary smaller ones. FBI.gov, The Washington Post, USA Today, CBS News, CNN, NBC, ABC, literally every news channel you can think of. I think the LA Times and like Jackson, Florida, all had like articles on it on their websites. And then a lot of supplementary sources, mainly scholarly articles on ricin, because I may have accidentally awakened the chemi in me and might now be on a watch list for phrases I Googled. And then the two big ones, there is an article by GQ magazine, and then...
Well, that just explains why we have an email recently from GQ.
Because I found the article today, and then let me read like the first two paragraphs, and I was like, oh no, this is going to be a good one. And then I got a subscription.
Do we have a membership to it now?
Yeah.
Can I just log in through the podcast email?
Yeah,
Nice.
you can.
I might peruse a little then.
It's $12 a year, so yeah.
Oh, nice. Are we getting a bag?
No.
Damn. Sometimes these magazines give you bags.
Do you still have a New Yorker subscription because of the totes?
My New Yorker subscription doesn't end until June.
So why would I cancel it? And then most importantly, most importantly, is a 3-part docuseries on Netflix called The Kings of Tupelo, and then like : a Southern crime saga or something like that. I don't remember what the second part of that title is, but it's called Kings of Tupelo. Here's a note, a disclaimer. This docuseries, like point blank, end of sentence, is like probably my favorite documentary I have ever watched.
Wow.
It's like...
That's really high praise for you.
I watch a lot of documentaries, guys. It's just like beautifully made. The story is so well told. And also the cinematography is incredible. The color grading, the music. I'm going to make Grant watch a scene of it off air because I can't legally show that to you guys, but just because it's like so good. And I absolutely am not going to dissuade you from watching it at all. I mean, like maybe wait until after the episode. I don't know. But here is a disclaimer that I have. When I dug into it, this documentary doesn't have a lot of dates when it talks about events. And so, Grant, what's one of your tricks, your fun little tricks for telling stories?
I have a lot of them. So
like
if they're
hyperbole,
trying to,
twisting the facts a little bit.
Exaggeration.
Extraggerate.
Yeah, exactly. Fast with the boring context part, really long in the juicy detail, build the world there, wrap it up nicely. Sometimes it's fun to tell a pre-story because what's actually funny is just the person that you know. And so let me paint this picture for you. Yeah.
And so they take all of that.
Okay, good.
And they really run with it. To give you some additional context, the directors are, oh God, I can't remember their last name, brothers. Same brothers that did a documentary that I love called Wild Wild Country. It's also on Netflix.
Wild Wild Country.
And
cinematography, yes, beautiful.
Yes,
yeah.
Tiger King.
Oh, okay. So they're the people.
Yes.
They're the Spielbergs of documentaries.
They're just, and this one is probably my favorite, even compared to Tiger King and Wild Wild Country.
Okay.
It's incredible. However, like I said, some of the dates aren't there. And when I really dug into it, they definitely played around with chronological order a bit. And not in a way that like took away from the truth, but I do think like amped up the drama of the story. Yeah. They made choices, and that's fine. But I wanted to do my best to tell the story in as close to chronological order as I could get. And that's where I ran into like some issues of trying to find dates for things and not being able to.
Sure.
Also because these people weren't famous until this happened, right? So it's not like Elvis or Liza or Frank Sinatra.
Liza.
Yeah, with a Z. I want them to know I'm screaming.
Exactly.
So this one's kind of hard because I was like, when did they go to Jamaica? And then the internet's like, huh?
What?
Who? Where? What? What?
The internet's that way. Me and all the listeners are also that way right now.
Yeah, so exactly. So I did my very best to find the dates that I could, and I'll make certain to point out these inconsistencies to you all as we go. I do want you all to watch the docuseries, and I want you all to kind of notice where those facts lie and also don't lie when you watch it, because it is kind of interesting. So anyway, let's go back. Let's go back. So from what I just laid out, we know Paul Kevin Curtis was arrested for the ricin laced letters. I'm about to say a lot of things right here. I'm not necessarily saying a trigger warning, but I am just preventing you from having a jump scare. To understand Paul Kevin Curtis at the time of the crime, you need to understand the motives he would have to try and get the world's attention. And to understand that, you would also need to understand why, when a Ringling's brother's elephant was shot in a drive-by shooting, his entire family was worried that Kevin could be the perpetrator. But to understand that, you need to know about the book he wrote in prison about illegal body harvesting and how he made it his life's mission to uncover the truth. But to understand that, you would need to understand why he went to prison, which was because he assaulted a district attorney. But to understand that, you would need to know that the district attorney was a guitar player for a band that got hired to back up Kevin and his brother for one of their Elvis tribute concerts. And to understand that argument that led to the assault, you would need to understand that Kevin had accidentally stumbled upon a severed head in a freezer at a hospital. But in order to understand that, you would need to understand why he was working as a janitor at that hospital in the first place, because he was actually an Elvis impersonator, and that doesn't actually pay enough money to support his family. And to understand that, you would need to understand why there's so many Elvis impersonators in the city of Tupelo, Mississippi. So let's get into it.
Because that's where Elvis is from.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Here's a quote from William Faulkner to really open this up. I want you to know when I was writing that little section.
From William Faulkner?
Yeah, it's just a good quote.
No, okay.
Yes, it has nothing.
Not a friend of Tupelo, Mississippi.
Oh, God. At least not that I know of. To understand the world, you must first understand a place like Mississippi. The docuseries actually opens with that quote, and I think it's really fitting. So this next section is called The Kings of Tupelo. On January 8th, 1935, in Tupelo, Mississippi, a star was born by the name of Elvis Aaron Presley. What's lesser known about Elvis is that he had a twin brother named Jesse, who was a stillborn, and so he was never actually alive. But the legend goes, on Elvis's 11th birthday, Elvis got his first guitar, where the current hardware store is in Mississippi, or in Tupelo. He had his first kiss at the local movie theater. The founding members of his fan club are, and some still live in Tupelo. There's a photo of him hanging in the sheriff's office in town for when he got sworn in as a deputy in 1971, because his third cousin was the sheriff at the time.
Good.
Yeah. He also took martial arts in Tupelo. A really random fun fact. Did you know Priscilla Presley had an affair with Elvis's karate instructor, Mike Stone? And did you also know that this was a major contributing factor for their divorce, which she asked for in 1972?
Because she was in love with the karate instructor, not the sheriff's deputy Nepo baby.
Don't know.
Known as Elvis Presley.
I think it definitely led to her asking for a divorce.
Fascinating.
And then he also had to get...
Elvis was taking karate?
Karate, yes. And Elvis, when he found out about the affair, wanted to hire a hitman to assassinate his karate instructor, but then had to get talked down. I'm not sure by who. So,
did he have a lot of canola oil hanging around? Not castor oil.
Castor oil.
There we go.
Canola oil!
Sorry, in my brain, I have been fighting the edge castor canola because when I was up in Montana driving to your bachelorette party last summer.
My fault.
Well, I mean, no. It's actually a gorgeous story about how gorgeous the flower of the canola plant is that makes canola oil.
Maybe it's poisonous. Did you try eating it?
No, it was in Montana.
So flowers in Montana aren't edible?
Well, there's like literally huckleberry right there. Like there was just other
okay.
things I was interested in eating.
Okay, sure. So in the town today, Tupelo is known for having many ways to celebrate Elvis.
Naturally.
Statues, memorials, etc., and most importantly, impersonators galore.
Right.
So here's a quote from Kevin. Quote, "My mama raised me on Jesus, Elvis, and cornbread. And yes, in that order." As a young kid, Kevin was a lanky, geeky teen with big glasses, and he got picked on a lot. So he spent a lot of his childhood alone, perfecting what he calls, in an Elvis voice, the quiver of the king.
Okay.
I can't do it. However, he was pretty good at his Elvis impersonation. And so at 14, his mom took him to Memphis to Elvis's official suit maker and separate belt maker, I guess, and took out a bank loan to cover a nearly $4,000 bill to have him his own custom Elvis suit
In what
made.
year?
This is when he was 14. So in, I don't know, 80s, maybe?
$4,000?
Mm-hmm. 80s, definitely 80s.
Oh my God. You make like one suit a year with that kind of money. Sorry.
Dude, yeah, exactly. His mom, Eloise, had met Elvis once in 54, and they would periodically talk over the years. He would call her to pray with her over the phone.
Okay.
Weird but cute.
Did she also teach karate?
No, she actually genuinely seemed so like, she loves her sons, is what I'll say. He started winning, he as in Kevin, started winning talent shows all over the place. Elvis impersonation competitions, because we have a competition for the person who looks the most like Timothée Chalamet. So I guess an Elvis impersonation competition sounds right. He was a seven-time world finalist at the International Images of the King competition, which is a real sentence.
He lets me up. Sorry, I don't know how to do Elvis voice.
This is a picture of him.
Oh, that's, probably pretty believable.
Right?
I don't know if the face is right, but other than that,
his voice.
That's the voice.
Matches,
Gotcha.
a lot.
Okay.
Yeah.
To be clear, I'm not trying to shade him. He's like not an unattractive man. There's just like Elvis was
You
like
can look up a
famously
picture of him. He's also
swoon-worthy.
just not that attractive.
Okay, Maia said it, not me. I mean,
His older brother, however, Jack, decided, according to Kevin Curtis, overnight to become an Elvis tribute artist.
Nice.
As well.
Good.
And I'll have you
Family business.
read the quote in this box. Don't scroll down because that's a picture of him that I'll show you in a second. His name is Jack Curtis.
Okay, so.
It's such a good quote.
Sorry, just a quick little pre-read for something this short. I really didn't ever think or intend to become an Elvis tribute artist. But then I realized, as an insurance agent, this could be a special in the form of business. This could be special in the form of business? That's the full quote.
And then I realized, as an insurance agent.
That's a Jenna Maroney quote from 30 Rock, if I have ever read one.
It's just so good. Yeah. So, and then in the docuseries, they show an advertisement for his insurance company.
Oh, God, yes.
And it's Jack, and he's just talking to the camera, and he says, "I'll help you save those premium dollars. However you know me." And then it transitions, like, bad transition to him now in an Elvis costume. "Call me today."
Can I see this picture?
And this is the top one is from 2019, so you have to know that he's going to be quite a bit older.
Okay.
And then the bottom one is from the docuseries.
Okay. Honestly, old one.
He's a lot better looking, I will say. Like, he looks a lot more like
We
an
can
Elvis.
say he kept it tight.
He did.
Kept it
He
tight.
really did.
He kept it kind of old man tight.
But he also has, like, very clearly artificially dyed black hair.
Yeah, now that
which
I'm in my
takes away
30s,
from it.
I'm like, that's a dye job.
Yes.
You know?
And then he has, like, the really intense sideburns. Both him
Yeah.
and Kevin Curtis do.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I love it.
I know, fucking incredible. Kevin recalls his brother, Jack, always being, quote, the winner. The successful one, the popular one, the attractive one, etc. Jack attributes it to something he refers to as achievement drive, or the burning desire to be successful. A desire that he did not see reflected in his younger brother.
That's tough. That's tough to hear.
So funny. So Kevin did struggle to keep a job. He was always goofing around, getting fired. from like whatever restaurant jobs he would have. And so Jack's solution as the caring older brother was to buy his younger brother the Tony Robbins cassette program on personal empowerment.
And then what? Did he buy him pants in aspirational sizes? Like what?
So shockingly, I think to Jack at least, I think Jack was like, here, like this will, I don't know, like here's a book to read. And then you're like, oh,
you're
it's
unhappy
an avocado.
You're unhappy because you're a failure. And here, I'm trying to help you fix that.
Yeah, that can't go over well. But Casey apparently took it well. He would listen to this tape every day of every week. And even Jack remembers being shocked. And so, but because of this, some of the quotes that Tony Robbins would say of like, you need to like trust yourself and have these big visions and like follow through and whatever. So because of this, Kevin has his first brilliant idea. Him and his brother are both Elvis impersonators / tribute artists. They both sing and also can make themselves look kind of like Elvis. So why not create a tribute band based on the premise that Elvis's twin brother had survived, and now they're both performers.
I mean, I'm interested. I hate to say it. I'm like, oh, because at first you're like, whoa, but then you're like, whoa.
Well, yeah.
You know?
Yeah, right?
What I just did right there, that's a whole lesson sometimes in some of my classes.
How to say words differently.
Exactly. You can tell a whole story that way.
The emphasis on the different syllable.
I always like to use no. No.
Do you show that TikTok of the kombucha girl?
No. Although, you mean Brittany Broski?
Broski, yeah.
Like named celebrity.
She's
Brittany
literally
Broski.
kombucha girl in my head, and then I have to autocorrect to
hilarious.
Like one of our friends' girlfriends that we have. I have to autocorrect the name in my head.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah. From kombucha girl to Brittany Broski.
Because at least with the second one, I know I have actively hurt your ability to remember it correctly.
You are actually the only reason I can't remember her name. If you had not said anything, I would remember her name. It's ridiculous.
Sorry, I improved it behind her back.
She's so nice. She didn't deserve that.
I've also never met her.
Fair enough.
We're back.
Okay. So Kevin Curtis has this idea to have a brothers Elvis act that they call Double Trouble. I think it's based off of a song or something. I don't know. Sure. Elvis's discography that well. And then they also, during the show, kind of frame it as it's young Elvis and Vegas Elvis. Because like Frank Sinatra, there's different eras of Elvis. And so the I think costuming is changed a little bit for both of them. Double Trouble becomes pretty well known. If you ask Kevin why, it's because they had a triple costume change, which had never been done at the national competition level. And they were the only ones to incorporate real martial arts into their performance because Elvis did martial arts, you know? Yeah, so it took off. We made TV performances. They appeared in magazines around the world. I don't know how true the around the world part is. All they do is show a clip of a magazine in Japan, and that's all.
Gotcha.
So I think it might have been just
pretty
in Japan.
Limited tour, pretty limited.
Yeah, I don't think they went to Japan. They were just featured.
They've performed Toronto.
An international
trip.
Yeah, that makes us an international podcast.
They did Detroit and then did a Toronto show and then,
Yeah, and then left. Yeah, exactly.
And Seattle, Vancouver, you know.
You got to do that.
You can't miss Seattle, Vancouver.
You can't miss Brecca. So they would appear in magazines around the world. People would write them fan letters. Women would throw their lingerie on stage, like a full Elvis moment.
Okay.
Yeah. Double Trouble needed a backup singer. They're expanding a little bit. And so this is where Kevin met, who would become, I thought was his first wife, doing some research. The docuseries does not say this. I believe it's his second wife. Her name is Laura. She seems very kind. Laura, this is a quote. Quote, Jack's the rich brother, very handsome, but Kevin, I thought he was very sexy because I have a thing for pencil-thin mustaches. There's not a character in this docuseries that I would not get a drink with. I swear to God. And then here's a quote from Kevin. Kevin, quote, I was on my first date with Laura. She took the jacket off and I'm like, oh my goodness, she was well endowed is what I'm saying. And then later, like 5 seconds later in the docuseries, Kevin says, quote, but most importantly, she had the most beautiful, tiny, petite feet.
See, that's what I'm looking for.
Ew. Disgusting. anything.
You didn't even know what I was going to say next.
I don't need to.
But you know, when you see a person and you're like, yeah, like that's it. Like I'm obsessed with that.
Feet?
No, just like in general, being like, yeah, this checks all the boxes.
Okay, you needed to make that way clearer.
Well, I was, but then you had a really strong reaction.
We've talked about this. I hate feet. Feet freak me out so much.
And in a really healthy way, I forget what you are and are not into.
I appreciate that. In a really healthy way, I also remember that you don't have the same distaste that I do.
I think my students listen to this, so I think I'm going to stop it there.
And that's in a really healthy way.
Stop there.
And then Kevin continues, I'm a soul man. I'm a foot king.
No. Okay, I don't like that. And that needs to be clear. I have a big no on that.
And then he goes on to make a metaphor about how feet and socks are like presents on Christmas.
Let's go ahead and stop. Stop. Pause.
That's the reaction I was waiting for from you. Thank you.
It's the reaction you would have gotten if you'd let me finish to being like, yeah, being like, this person in front of me like checks all the boxes. Instead you're like, feet freak. Feet freak.
I'm not here to yuck anyone's yum, but I will a little bit.
You're not here to yuck anyone's yum, but if that's your yum, she's yucked.
I am personally yucked. You and me not compatible in that way. You do whatever you need to do. Just leave me out of it.
Meanwhile, I'm like, I'd like to hear about your experience. I think
Nope.
I'm interested.
I don't even need to. I have heard about girlfriend's experience. Not interested in learning anymore.
For reals, listen, we can just stop tiptoeing around it for a second. My honest to God approach to life is that I'm kind of in a like gotta catch 'em all scenario where I'm like, I just want to know
Not when it
everything.
comes to feet.
No, but I just want to hear if you've done something. I want to hear about it. Like I want to
hear about it.
I want to hear all of it. Like there's never a story unless it's like obviously like blood or gore or murder or whatever. Which
all
lucky
of the
me
things
today.
I want to tell you.
Right. But if you're like, oh, I had this really weird experience, I'm like, I'm sad, babes. Like I'm here. Let's get some fries for the table. And let's get into it.
I just need you to be okay with me scooting to the end of the table while I still listen in with one ear. I'm like, I still want to hear, but I want to be as far away as possible. Like
fistful of shoestring fries into mouth.
Like Grant talking to me about the Devil's Hole. Like we've all been there.
That's so funny that that's the episode that freaks you out. But
it still does. It's still really okay. Anyway, soon enough. Anyway, him and Laura get married.
Our foot king, right? Yeah, absolutely.
Him and Laura get married. So anyway, and they have a kid, and then I'm not sure the timeline of them having their other two. They will have 3 kids. But anyway, the pressure of having a family increases the financial pressure on the family, and Laura basically tells him to get a full, like a real job. Basically, he still does the Elvis stuff, but she wanted him to find another way to make
like health insurance and a salary.
You know, and I believe she was working at this time. This is their family photo.
Oh wait, it's kind of an adorable family photo.
Yeah, it's very cute.
Like all of them. That's actually really cute. Yeah.
Right?
He grew into his face a little bit more.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I do believe they have 4 kids, so this is only when they have the 3.
He looks like kind of a claymation character, just with the way his eyes are pressed in a little bit.
He looks like a cartoon character.
Yeah.
For sure. The way he like animates too is also very
He's
cartoony.
Southern Phil Dunphy.
Yeah. This next section, called the trigger. So he starts doing janitorial work. As Elvis, this part was a little I think he advertised his janitorial work as Elvis and then got the janitorial work, but then he didn't, and maybe he did some singing and cleaning performances, but I think for the most part it was just, he ended up having a company called the Cleaning Crew, and he did have janitors working under him. That part is also not made clear in the docuseries. That's something I found out separately. He had 1 or 2 employees under him, so he did have the capability of not physically working himself, but he was, because he needed to, obviously. But he would clean 7 businesses a night. They ended up getting their first home. They got toys for the kids, and he ended up having a couple of employees and his own company called the Cleaning Crew. Here's a trigger warning for in a few bullet points. We're going to talk about body parts and blood. Okay, thanks. So he booked his biggest contract his company had ever had, and I believe it was mainly him.
Okay.
It was at the North Mississippi Medical Center. It was a large rural hospital it was the largest rural hospital in America and the top employer in the state of Mississippi at the time. Not sure if it's still the case. So here's where you'll want to skip if you don't want to hear about this. Maybe 2 minutes. December 17th, 1999. Casey is on his way to the holiday party, and he is stopped by a woman at the hospital who works for the hospital he recognizes, who tells him they've had a backed up drainage system under the autopsy table, but no one will go in there. So she asks him, will you go into the morgue and do a cleanup job? And he says, sure, I guess. I mean, I wanted to go get eggnog, but sure. What am I going to do? Say no, you know?
Right.
So he puts on a hazmat suit, and sure enough, there is blood coming up out of the drainage system under the autopsy table. And so he gets to work. After about 30 to 40 minutes of stripping and mopping and all of this stuff, he's hot, he's sweating, he's in his hazmat suit, he's a little bit miserable because he wants to be at this Christmas party, and he's like really dehydrated because there's not a ton of ventilation in the area, or at least in the hazmat suit. And he's thinking to himself how good a nice, crisp Dr. Pepper sounds right in that moment.
Real.
Yeah. And so he's like taking a break, and he's just kind of like walking, I think maybe taking a little break. And then he goes and opens the fridge in the morgue.
In the autopsy room?
Yep. And what does he see but several shelves of various body parts?
Yeah, you're in the autopsy room.
That's what we all would think. But I can also imagine it's horrifying to see.
Yeah.
And then he opens the freezer. And
What? Oh, no. Now I have no more sympathy for you.
There was some sources said he opened the freezer. Some said it was just in the fridge. So it could have been one door, it could have been two.
Yeah.
And, severed head of a man that he recognized from being alive in the ER a few days prior. That's the end of that trigger warning, just so you guys know. So he goes home that night. I'm not sure if he actually goes to the Christmas party or anything, but he goes up home that night in a bit of like a manic phase and goes to Laura and tells her what he's seen.
Yeah.
And she says, we need this job. Keep your mouth shut. Like, don't. Oh. There's a reason for it, probably. Don't do what you do and tell everyone and be a fucking blab about it.
Right.
Because that's going to get you fired.
Wait, he's immediately suspicious?
He is.
Am I stupid for not being suspicious immediately?
I think he's mainly freaked out by it and kind of wants to share that.
Like, needs to talk it out.
Yeah, talk it out. And so she's just kind of like, please don't tell every single person you've ever met about this. And
men will literally seek therapy once and not be and told no.
Narrator, he did not keep his mouth shut. The next morning, he tells everyone on morning shift about finding body parts. And he was like, you want to come see? And I don't know if he actually went to go show them or whatever. No. But it quickly becomes the talk of the town and the talk of the hospital. And he gets called over the intercom to Jeff Barber, the CEO's office.
Oof.
And he's told to sign a statement saying, I, Paul Kevin Curtis, agree that on December the 17th, I was in an area of the hospital I was not authorized to be in, and I'm going to be suspended without pay while this matter is being investigated, et cetera, et cetera. The implication that I got is that this thing that he was being asked to sign said something like, I saw something, or like I didn't see anything. And so that's
to deny what he saw.
And so he doesn't sign it because he's like, I saw what I saw. And so he's fired. He is like, he is tackled to the ground by security. I don't know if he's actually tackled, but he is taken out by security. And he's also banned for life from the hospital.
What?
Yeah.
From going to it?
I don't know what that means.
It's a rural hospital.
They literally show the document on the docuseries and it says like cannot enter, like some will be escorted off the premises or whatever.
It's a rural hospital, which means it's the only one around.
Maybe it was like under employment, like you can come in as a patient,
sure.
But I don't know. I have no idea.
You can't visit any. Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so, needless to say, Laura is unhappy about that. She, I think, her exact words were, "I was pissed."
Right.
And also, do I think Kevin overreacted? Yes, absolutely. Body parts in a morgue, groundbreaking.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? But the hospital also was super weird. Like, that's a strange thing to ask someone to say instead of saying, like, hey, can you stop shouting from rooftops that we have body parts in our morgue? Here, like, we have them for research. We have them for this. Or, like, this is normal procedure. Or, like, you shouldn't have looked in there anyway, but here's why we have that. And they didn't do any of that. They said, shut your mouth and sit down. And he said, no. And they said, get out. Which I can acknowledge is weird, you know? This is from an interview with GQ. Kevin agreed that the body parts in the morgue is not unpredictable, but, quote, the hospital's response to his discovery piqued a macabre suspicion. It was the immediate reaction of an ant bed being stirred up. They never tried to justify it, saying, oh, Kevin, it's just research. And then here's a quote from the actual GQ article. A journalist, quote, based on evidence convincing to pretty much no one but himself, the conclusion Curtis jumped to was this. It was black market organ harvesting.
Right. Of course.
Why not? You know?
Listen, this, how do I say it? I think I'm just going to say it. If I was looking to purchase organs from something, I don't think
you would go to a hospital
in rural Mississippi.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Okay, I'm just going to stop dancing around it. If I need a heart, I want it to be a Coloradan's. I want it to be a Coloradan's heart. Like ran a marathon, drinks organic wine, right?
Drinks a gallon of sweet tea every day.
And I don't mean to make that as like an assumption, but there are some general public health facts.
That
and
are more
heart
true
disease
in the South.
is lower in Colorado than it is elsewhere.
Yeah. So we're still in 1999, if you remember. So his response is to get access to the internet to spread the word, which means he has dial-up. And so I called him a dial-up vigilante, which is the title of the next section. So Kevin decides that night, I believe, that he wants to dedicate his life to finding out the truth.
About this situation?
Sure. Black market organ harvesting. Yep.
Right.
Uh-huh. And so he went down to Walmart and bought a Gateway 2000, which he said he spent about $3,500, which is over...
What?
6.5 grand today in 2025. Crazy. So he started going down internet rabbit holes on body parts and their net worth and the potential for a market for such things. The rabbit hole led him to the dark web and, in his own words, quote, into the world of conspiracy.
Mm-hmm.
Here's a quote from him. It was like a mental drug, like you're under hypnosis. Grant, do you remember when I did that whole QAnon episode?
I do. I remember. Yeah, I remember it a lot because then we got some really bad news.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you remember what types of people fall into cults like QAnon?
The highly religious, the uneducated, lower education,
and
those who've never left their hometown,
and people going through change,
right? Experiencing
insecurity, whether financial or personal or social. People, especially with QAnon, because of all of the like hunting for the truth and the breadcrumbs and all of that, the need for a purpose and validation from others, people who are angry at the system and are maybe anti-establishment, aka everything Kevin Curtis is right in this moment. The only difference is that the algorithm is not feeding it to him. He is actively searching it.
He's searching it. He is the algorithm.
Yeah, he is the algorithm in this sense. But same kind of deal. He's primed for conspiracy. So this docuseries really does such a good job. What was I saying here? Oh my God. They do such a good job of like world building. They interview just people that live in Tupelo or lived in Tupelo and had interacted or knew of the subjects of the docuseries. And you never really even really put a name to the face. I'm sure they like show the name at some point, but it's not something you remember. It's like a barber and like guy that works in a mechanic shop and that kind of stuff.
People about town.
Yeah, people around town, and they interview them about this whole thing and about Paul Kevin Curtis. And it seems like people are certainly weirded out by the body parts that he found, but seem to agree collectively that there must be a reason that they just don't understand. Right. Like a normal person, I think, would do.
They're like, I don't work in a morgue, so I don't know what would happen there.
I think part of it is that Kevin just realized he has a lot of free time on his hands now. Yeah. And these people are like, I got a 9 to 5 to get to tomorrow. I don't have time to worry about this. And so they are, however, weirded out by how into it Kevin was.
The body parts or the research?
Yes.
Okay.
All of the above. Because he would rant about it, I think, to anyone. Like that weird guy at the bar. That was Paul Kevin Curtis.
I know 100%. Yeah. The like, how did we get here? Oh, you brought up this topic out of the blue.
Oh, you started talking about this and then didn't stop.
Oh, right.
Yeah. And so generally the vibe I got from the people that were interviewed was like, not my circus, not my monkeys kind of attitude. Like, okay, you just stay over there and I'll watch.
Right.
So I can tell my friends about it later, but I don't want to be a part of this. So the North Mississippi Medical Center's statement on the matter reads as follows, quote, "We have an arrangement with the Mississippi Organ Recovery Agency, MORA, to have organs donated by individuals desiring to do so. MORA harvests the organs and takes them immediately for transplantation to other hospitals." From this point forward, Kevin is basically on the radar for law enforcement. They're like,
he's going to do something.
He's going to do something whack.
Yeah.
And so basically every night, Kevin says he would go on the dark web to do research on body harvesting.
I just always, even like the older I get now, I'm like, we got to come up with a different word because research isn't what he's doing. Like, I know that's like
Surfing.
the term we have,
Yeah.
but he's like, it'd be like, I'm a lion expert. I watch Animal Planet every night. The year's 2006. It's like, that's not what's happening, you know?
No, yeah, I agree.
You're not researching.
He's finding information, but he's never checking if the sources are reliable. He's never actually doing any of the back. He's taking any information that is spewed at his eyeballs and taking it if it agrees with his already decided confirmation bias.
Right. Like, I don't know if I told you this or not, but I'm in grad school right now, and I...
Oh my fucking God.
Got her. But, like, there
You really
is...
did. That's so infuriating.
Because it sounded so genuine.
Really
but there
did.
are, like... I mean, obviously everyone kind of knows, especially if you're listening to us, but there's, like, ways to do research that are like established within the scientific community, you know?
Yeah.
Like what he's doing is what lazy grad students do when they need to figure out what their topic's going to be, which is not research.
There's also like websites now that are like, is this source reliable?
Right.
And then they'll be like, for most of them, for
Right.
most sources, they're like,
You can probably find them better.
yeah, we believe you, but maybe find another one. Okay, so, so he goes home every night to surf the web for for information on body parts and harvesting and organ trade and all of that. He comes to the conclusion that there's like a big group of funeral homes, morgues, doctors, and politicians that are all involved in this conspiracy. Here's a quote from Laura. "Kevin would keep me up all night long talking about this conspiracy. His brain would make weird connections. And because there was no job to go to, he stayed in the house on his computer the whole day."
Yikes.
Which
so unhealthy.
we
Screen
all
time.
went through
the pandemic.
major mental health crises during something that happened in 2020. I don't know if you remember. But yeah, I can see that. So he is determined to get the world out there. He sets up 40 blogs and websites featuring his research. I think when he says websites, he means MySpace profiles.
Okay, gotcha.
Maybe a domain name or two, but I think it was mainly MySpace accounts.
Gotcha.
He did what we all did, and he learned like basic HTML code to like make the home pages as like freaky as possible. He
Sure.
like brags how he could figure out how to make like blood drip from the top
Of
of the
course,
and make
yeah.
all the buttons like skulls and stuff like that.
Lydia, when opening up a business a couple years ago, decided on what she wanted the business to be called, searched for a domain name, realized that domain name was already taken, found out who owned the domain name.
Oh my God.
Reached out to him.
Kills me.
Made him an offer. Then changed her mind, wanted a different domain name, purchased that one. And then Jacob came home from work. Like all of that happened in one day once. And that was the update the friend group got. And we were like, go off,
Okay,
queen.
cool. Okay, so people do start following him and listening to what he has to say, which is...
Is he still doing the Elvis stuff on the side?
Oh, yeah.
Oh my God. Okay, great.
I think the louder he gets, the less bookings he's getting,
Sure.
at least in town.
Sure.
But I think from everything I researched, he was good at the Elvis performances and stuff. I have some videos that I actually haven't watched yet, but we'll experience those together. A woman from New Jersey reaches out to him named Karen Del Rey Thornton, and she contacts him telling him that she believed her father's body had been illegally harvested, illegally meaning like this man hadn't signed up for like organ donation on their driver's license kind of stuff, illegally harvested by a man named Michael Mastro Marino. And Kevin's like, absolutely, I will help you investigate this. You know, vigilante on dial-up, I guess. And so he starts trying to find connections between Mastro Marino and like funeral homes and morgues and all of that stuff. And so this whole thing goes on for not days, not weeks, not months, years.
Yep. He has a tip. He's going to pursue it.
He's not even just the Michael Mastromarino like lead. It's just everything to do with this. He's just constantly shouting into the void that is the internet.
Right.
Which is crazy to me because if he had just gotten on like Facebook or Instagram the early days, the early days, and posted some really good content, he could be a celebrity right now. That bothers me so much.
He could be on the Bresky Report.
Okay. Like what Charlie D'Amelio and like Kendall Ray.
Yeah, those are names.
The original like TikTok girls, the TikTok dancers that just happened to be on TikTok before it blew up in 2020.
Right.
And now are just like huge fucking celebrities. That same thing happened in the early days of Instagram. There's like the original fitness influencers, like they're huge. The original like Instagram influencers are all huge. And it's just like if you get in the game early enough, you have the chance to just get really big and go really far. It's the same with podcasting as I'm learning. It's fine.
We showed up too late.
No, we didn't show up too late. We never showed up too late. Don't you fucking say that.
Great. We showed up.
We showed up. That's all that matters. And we're working hard. Okay. Jack, his brother, says that he would get around 20 to 30 emails a day from Kevin.
Oh, no.
Like with updates on what he's finding and all of this stuff.
You're setting up a filter and it's going straight to a folder.
Yeah, like,
and that folder is auto dumping every week.
I know, like you can't imagine that someone's reading that.
No.
20 to 30 times a day, right? Like,
well, it's Kevin's full-time job.
Basically, yeah.
And as a person who works in a school district, that I'm going to say this, I'm protected by my union. And as a person who works in a school district who clearly employs plenty of people whose full-time job is email. Yeah, I fully believe it. I fully believe that he is sending it out thinking like, people are going to read this.
That's crazy.
I'm leaking out next week's newsletter now to my brother Jack.
And Jack's like, great, I have insurance to sell.
Unsubscribe.
Yeah. Which is so sad.
No, actually, Jack's like, well, I was on email to be like, yeah, you can just book one of us. Kevin doesn't need to come.
Kevin doesn't have the time.
Right.
Okay, so everyone in his real world life is concerned about him. Despite their concern for his well-being, Kevin feels that they don't actually care about his cause. So we're going to just quickly remind everyone, cue the reminder that conspiracies and cults incorporate a level of isolationism, which Kevin is now self-enforcing because he's not actually being isolated, but he is isolating himself from the people that care about him because he feels that they don't care about, you know the whole shtick.
You see me, but you don't see me.
Exactly. So he starts sending his research to national and local news outlets. Again, to hopefully spread the word.
Right.
He starts getting really into his research, which forms an increasing rift between him and his family. In 2002, Laura is finally like, that's enough. I'm out. And so they get a divorce. But it does seem they stay close. I think like to this day, they probably are so close. I mean, they have like 4 children together. Okay. I think 4. I'm trying to remember. I think it's 4. I believe she gets full custody of the kids and then eventually moves or lives within walking distance. I think one source said that they were actually neighbors.
Oh, wow.
So they stay very close. And he does make a point, even though he doesn't have full custody, he has visitation rights. And I think he tries to visit them every day or something like that. Like he tries
to stay in their life.
He makes a very distinct and intentional point to be a part of his children's lives. Sure. But she does continue to sing backup for Double Trouble with the brothers. Crazy.
Whoa. Who are they? Fleetwood Mac?
Yeah, what? Jack also offers her a job as a secretary at his insurance agency to help her get by. And I do believe she ends up at some point selling insurance as well. Sure. I'm not 100%. This is another place that the docuseries was not super clear on. The docuseries made it seem like Jack did not offer her the job until Kevin and her were already on bad terms or already divorced or something. But I saw her LinkedIn. I also saw...
Oh my God. Sorry, I had to process that for a second. Go ahead.
There's also several websites like after this docuseries released of like, where are these characters now? And I also spent a good amount of time on her Facebook for a reason that we'll talk about later. I believe she got offered that job in 96. So I'm not actually sure on the days that they got married, but I think that job offer came a lot earlier than the docuseries implies that it did. So you can imagine, obviously, now Kevin not only does not have a wife as he had, his wife is also, whether or not this was already a thing or not, is working with his older brother that he has always kind of had an inferiority complex with, you know? So now we're in 2003. We're approaching the first annual Elvis Presley Festival, where Double Trouble is set to perform the debut act.
Okay.
In Tupelo.
So they still have a strong local following.
Sure.
Okay.
I think they actually do. I think
it's called what again?
Double Trouble.
No, the name of the festival.
Oh, Elvis Presley Festival. The Elvis Presley Festival.
Do you want to go to Pressed Fest?
Ew.
Okay, so no.
No, I do want to go. I didn't like that you called it Pressed Fest.
Yeah, Presley, Elvis Presley, Pressed Fest.
Okay. I liked it more with the lack of the T that I think you accidentally put at the end of pressed.
Pressed Fest.
Press Fest.
Press Fest.
Press Fest.
Press Fest.
Yeah, there you go. It made Grant very uncomfortable to like just slide his way through that. Press Fest.
ASMR.
So they would be performing in the auditorium of the school that Elvis went to called Milam School. Ahead of this, they needed to hire some musicians to back them up. And so the Tupelo Tourism Bureau, I believe, helped them acquire this band. I think Jack may have also played a part in getting this band, but they're called, or it's David Daniels and his band. I don't know what their name was. But another fun fact that Kevin definitely won't read too far into later. David Daniels also happens to be the assistant district attorney in North Mississippi. The brothers, at this point, invested a lot of money into the performance. They bought T-shirts, they made CDs, they had promo photos taken, they had TV ad spots out. Like, they went the full nine for this.
Oh, yikes.
Jack had paid, in addition to this, Jack had paid something like 10 grand for the performance to be filmed, like professionally filmed. At the rehearsals leading up to the performance, Kevin Curtis meets David Daniels. Those two names don't feel real. Saying them like that. No,
okay, thank you.
Kevin Curtis and David Daniels. Kevin felt like David was cocky and unprofessional, and he also felt like David had been flirting with Laura,
who is no longer his wife.
Yes.
Okay.
Another thing the docuseries doesn't totally make really clear. But yeah, definitely not his wife at this point. But the divorce is fresh. This is 2003. They got divorced in 2002.
Okay.
David's story goes that 5 days before the performance, as he was leaving rehearsal, he was talking to Laura, who had asked him if he wants to get a drink sometime. And before he can answer or leave, Kevin stops him by like slamming his hand on like the car door, I think. I don't know. And then he realizes that Laura has given her number to David, and Kevin goes ballistic. And once Kevin loses it, David tries to, like, in a panic, leave. And so he tries to back his truck out, and he backs into Laura's car behind him, accidentally trapping himself between her car and the building. And then this is kind of interesting because there's two, like, not completely different sides of the story, but definitely different tellings of the same story. Kevin says that they got into a heated debate about corruption in Mississippi. And
what? Oh, because Dee Dee's a DA.
Yes. Dee Dee's a DA. And he brings up one of his many websites. David gets out of his truck, and Kevin remembers him saying something like, "Fuck your website. I know all about your crazy corruption, etc., etc. It's all bullshit. You're a liar. You're delusional, and everyone knows it." Kevin then tells David that he's fired as like a backup, as a guitarist, and then David hits him. Oh. David's story goes that he just hears Kevin start screaming about body parts.
Okay.
And and I'm unsure if he actually also thinks that he hit Kevin. I don't think he ever says that he hit Kevin. But he does say that Kevin tried to come at him with a beer bottle, saying he's going to fuck David up. And so David reaches down and grabs his pistol and tells Kevin that, "No, sir, you will not be fucking me up." And Kevin also says that not only did David pull the gun and like point it at him, but also like kind of held it to his head is what he like kind of mimes.
It's crazy. It's like in this situation, it's like, who do you believe, a cop or a conspiracy theorist?
I know, it's crazy.
It's like a really hard intersection to be at. Because so far, both of these are concerning, but neither of these are out of place for the like generic profile we can paint for these two men.
Truly,
you know,
truly.
A small town DA drunk with power, a conspiracy theorist with nothing left to lose,
Literally nothing to lose.
just trying to inform his fellow man. Yeah.
You don't know.
I think it's great because I think actually both stories are true.
Yeah.
I think he was screaming about body parts. I think a gun was pressed against his head. I think it's all true.
It's like
and they're
Jenga tower.
Right. They're just keeping the parts out that don't make them look good, but it's all there.
True.
Yeah, 100%.
I don't disagree. So Kevin also implies that the gun was like held to his head in front of his wife and children, which again, ex-wife, but that's, I don't think, something that he acknowledges or the doc really acknowledges. And Laura does back up that she was there and the kids were also there. Kevin thinks to himself, I'm about to die because of what I know.
Sorry. I'm so fixated on like the details of the fight that I forget that we have running commentary as well.
Yeah. Because
I'm about to be silenced by the corrupt state.
And then this guy's like, you're coming at me with a beer bottle. But he is scared shitless. And so he puts his head down and asks David not to kill him. And so obviously David doesn't kill him. But I also...
Well, that's part of the Southern tradition.
You don't kill
Surrendering.
him. That was good.
Thanks. Don't forget they were traitors.
Well, shit.
I like continually, it's growing to my heart. I'm going to do a history series here soon.
Yeah, it feels right for you.
Good,
Yeah, 100%. So they're now at the show. They're getting ready to do this performance. Jack has sunk a lot of money. Both brothers have invested a lot in this performance.
And DD, the DA, is going to be there despite what Casey has said.
I'm not sure on that. That's not made clear. Jack remembers hearing Kevin say before the show, quote, I've been treated wrongly, and this is my chance to let everybody know what kind of corruption is going on. And Jack tells him, you will absolutely not do that.
No, it is not.
No.
No, it is not.
No. And Kevin agrees to just do the show. He's like, yeah, absolutely. Heard, seen, understood. I will give the performance of my life. And he gets a standing ovation. He does the show. He starts singing. He does the whole thing. Everyone kind of like breathes like a huge sigh of relief as everyone like stands up to give the final ovation. And then, quote, ladies and gentlemen, I have something to say.
And Jack's like, cut the cameras. Cut the lights.
Jack's like backstage.
Get
like,
these people out of here.
And then he continues. Tupelo, Mississippi is the most corrupt place in the world. I think I know why Elvis left and never came back. I found a severed head in a morgue refrigerator and the hospital fired me. Imagine you've brought your children to this performance, this Elvis tribute show.
We'll do a free show if Press Fest can guarantee that it's going to be as exciting this year. We will perform for free.
Yeah. I found a severed head in a morgue refrigerator and the hospital fired me. Then last week, the assistant DA almost murdered me. So thank you all for coming, but I will never perform for anything in Tupelo, Mississippi associated with the North Mississippi Medical Center as long as I live.
Was Press Fest organized? Which also, by the way, that's not its name. I've just started to call it Press Fest. Was it organized by the North Mississippi Medical Association?
Here's my theory, because that is on video, and you can see him actually saying that live, like to the audience on camera. As he says, I will never perform anything, it kind of fades back into like today, Paul Kevin Curtis, and he adds the associated with North Mississippi Medical Center. So I think that was something added in post because he still does perform in Tupelo, Mississippi. And so I think that was probably just something they kind of added to like remove confusion. So Jack and Laura are both super unhappy, to say the least. Jack says after that performance to Kevin, we will not be performing together as brothers ever again. And they, I don't believe, talk for a year or more after this. And then Paul Kevin Curtis says in the documentary, quote, to not be believed is the most lonely place. I felt defeated. Time for Kevin Curtis to move on. And I'm not sure what happened. I do think he takes a break from conspiracy after this. And the next thing that we will talk about happens a few years later.
Oh, okay. So it kind of timed it well.
Does, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice little tea.
Yeah, we'll be right back.
Okay, listener, we're back, and you don't know it because it's only been 1 second. But for us, that was a slightly longer break than expected.
We had a whole little gab session.
Yeah.
I got caught up on all the drama.
All like absolutely pointless, meaningless, but it's just also very funny to me because it feels very clear that I did show up just a little sleepy still.
Yeah, now
because at the brain I break, I'm like, oh wait, all this life happened that I need to update you on.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I'm going to sip this tea and hear more about this guy.
Okay.
KC and DD.
KC and DD. DD is not a huge character. We are going to hear a little bit about him later, but we are going to introduce another character in this next section.
Yes.
So this section I titled Big Moves. Big Moves. So remember when Casey really started his like deep dive into the internet and that woman approached him saying, hey, I think my dad was illegally harvested by a man named Michael Mastro Marino. That's a real tongue twister. Every time I say it, I have to like rewire my brain to say it right. Mastro Marino. One day, I could not find, this is another thing that the doc didn't have an exact date on, but I think I found just from news articles and stuff. I think this was 2005. Casey turns on the TV and there is a breaking news story. Body parts ring has been busted.
And he's like, I've been saying this.
That's what I've been saying. Yeah.
Does he drive down there immediately?
No.
Okay.
So what they've uncovered is that there are 4 men, at least, harvesting bones, tendons, hearts valves. I maybe should have provided a trigger warning. I think it's okay. We're talking about body parts. I told them that it was going to be a thing. It's fine. I'm sorry. Heart valves from 1,000+ bodies and sold them. They were operating out of a funeral home. And the head of the whole ring, Michael Mastromarino. And so...
Wait, so the tip was kind of right?
Oh, the tip was absolutely right. He just didn't, like, full circle it enough but he was right.
But it was based in northern Mississippi?
No, I think that case was in New Jersey, specifically. I was going to do, like, a whole bit on going into some details on the Michael Mastromarino case, and... there's a ton of articles out there, and I think I just like ended up being like, okay, I'll look at this later once I finish like the rest of the story. And then the rest of the story ended up being so long that I was like, we literally don't have time. So if you're interested, look it up. But what I did find out is that he was a dentist, which just gave me another reason to hate dentists. and maybe it'll be an episode sometime, but that's that. And so Kevin, once he sees that, he's like, I fucking told you so. And so he is back in it. He maybe took a couple years out of that conspiracy thing, and now he is fully back in it. After the Michael Mastromarino case broke, more of these cases are cropping up. Other people being like, hey, I thought that happened to like my relative or whatever. And so cases pop up in Texas, Colorado, Florida. I think there was one a few years ago, maybe in Colorado, something similar to this. But it seems like most of these were operating out of funeral homes. But I think hospitals or like medical centers were involved in some way. So Kevin believes he is the biggest whistleblower on body harvesting in the U.S. /
he's like
the world.
Waiting for his interview request. Yeah. He's like, Katie Kirk's going to need me on air in any second.
Literally. And he will talk to Katie Couric.
Shut up.
But not for this. Here's a quote from Kevin. Quote, the curse of common sense is it gets tiring, always proving people wrong.
King has some quotes.
Yeah, dude.
King has some quotes.
These people just have zinger after, and we haven't even met the guy that I love the most in this story yet.
I think it's men from the South. They're so sassy because it's the elements of this story have been giving out on a limb.
Yeah,
or out on the episode.
So the brothers that made this docuseries say like, at some points they were being asked like, how did you make this story that at times can be like so dark and has such dark themes like so funny? And they were honestly like, I think people in the South like embrace being a character.
Yes.
Like they don't care if they're necessarily the villain. They're the character and they embrace that. And so we were constantly getting these insane lines from these people. And so we just wanted to like invoke that experience. Dude, this docuseries is like, it's amazing. It's incredible. I love everything about it. Okay. We're going to meet this character. This is not the character that I was just telling you about that I love so much. This is a different character. He's still fun, I guess. I don't know. He's weird. His name is J. Everett Dutschke.
Of course
Dutschke. In 2006, as part of Kevin Curtis's effort to spread the word, he reaches out to a local independent newspaper for Northeast Mississippi. The man who runs this paper is named Everett Dutschke, James Everett Dutschke. He goes by either Everett or Dutschke, so that's what we'll call him.
Okay.
And Everett is a weird dude. But honestly, even people now will be like, they have a lot in common. Like, we can see it. We can see, like, the relationship that they could build. And So some sources say he came to Tupelo in 2000. I think what happened is he came to visit in 2000 and then moved later, but the docuseries and some other sources say that he didn't move to Tupelo until 2004. But regardless, that's not important. What is important is that he's a stranger. He's an adult stranger in this relatively small southern town. And so people notice and people remember their first impressions and people remember like kind of questioning his motives and being like, he doesn't look like he's from around here. And so there's going to be, trigger warning, there's going to be a brief mention of suicide in a couple of bullets, just so you know. Similar to Kevin, Everett grew up kind of geeky and lanky and not with a lot of friends. And so his only friends he remembers were adults, and he would spend all of his free time on his independent hobbies. And including like Kevin, one of those hobbies was music. And here's the trigger warning, skip forward maybe 30 seconds. He did have a tragedy early on. When Everett was 17, his older brother commits suicide over the end of his marriage. This event changed Everett and everyone around the tragedy. I couldn't find the name of the brother. This event was only mentioned once in like the GQ article. There's a lot more context that I think Everett's dad provides in that article, but that one felt like the most impactful to like why Everett's personality kind of turned out so off-putting and like distrustful. And so Everett ends up getting into Taekwondo. And then as he gets older, he really leans more into his like geeky side. He is pretty smart. And so he gets into like radios and satellites and that kind of thing.
Okay.
He claims he went to the Olympics for martial arts in 1996.
Is that an Olympic event?
It is.
Oh, okay. Okay.
However, I did some research, and according to like the U.S. martial arts or the U.S. Taekwondo team, there was no Taekwondo team in the 96 Olympics. Like it fully skipped the 96 Olympics.
Interesting.
I think it would have been in Atlanta. There were previous years where martial arts, specifically Taekwondo, was like a exhibitionist sport, so not like a competitive sport, but that was not the 96 Olympics.
I am admittedly not prepared for how much Taekwondo has featured in this week's episode.
Good. So I'm not sure if Everett was referring to some other kind of national competition, because I know there are other versions. There's like Junior Olympics. There's all these other things that he could have been a part of, but it certainly was not the Olympics. And so anyways, Everett says after that event, whatever it happened to be in 96, he got recruited for his skills and disappeared for a while. That's literally
the newspaper guy says this.
Yes. This is
about his Taekwondo skills.
So this is before he ever comes to Tupelo.
No, I know.
But yes, he says that. Yes.
You introduce us to this man that owns a newspaper. He's so good at Taekwondo.
He gets recruited.
does go to the 96 Olympics.
Yeah.
And then he gets recruited for his skills.
Yep.
And now here we are.
And then he says in 2004, he had just finished an assignment. What's really happening is he's implying very strongly he was like a secret agent or something.
Yeah.
Secret agents don't reveal themselves.
Secret agent man. Yeah.
So he said he finished an assignment, quote, in the middle of frickin' nowhere, where he claims things had gone very awry, no further detail, which led him to make the decision to start over from nothing with nothing. Sure, Jan. But now he's saying he just wants a simple, quiet, ordinary life, and so he chose to settle down in Tupelo. So in 2005, Everett ends up renovating an old office space on Main Street, which he would turn into a successful dojang. I hope I'm saying that right. I was going to do like further back up and like look up the pronunciation of that. What really pisses me off is people conflating. We talked about this with the Jackie Chan episode.
Right.
I'm having so many connections. Like the conflation between karate and kung fu and taekwondo. Right. They are not the same. So stop calling anything that's not karate. That's not a dojo. You know, taekwondo has a dojang. I'm not sure what the kung fu is. Sensei is Japanese. That's karate.
It's actually kind of crazy that Barbie managed to parry that perfully by calling it a mojo dojo casa
it's a house. Yeah, you just
like,
fully get rid of any.
This is a house.
Exactly. And so, yeah, anyway, that's just something that came up that I was like, shut the fuck up. At some point, I think there's like a sign that says karate, but then Everett only ever refers to it as taekwondo. and he only ever refers to it as a dojang. Everyone else will refer to it as like a dojo, and that he does karate and kung fu and all this stuff. And it's like,
oh my God, calm down. You're so embarrassing.
It's like, Jesus, please shut up. Please shut up. Anyway, so he opens up that dojang, and it does, from what I can tell, become relatively successful. I'm unsure on the years of the dojang, like specifically when it opened and what I'm about to say, what years that finally happens. But they went to nationals one year. I'm not sure exactly what that means. There is a video of Everett telling his like students that they're going to nationals, and then with a bunch of trophies. So
cool.
Maybe it's not the Olympics. Maybe it's not like the national, but
right.
He did win things. And at some point he got National Instructor of the Year, was obviously unable to verify that as well, but he says he got that. Everett also used this connection to the community to really like integrate himself with the people, try and get some like social standing with everyone, just because he's an outsider. He needs some in, Right. And so Everett has this newspaper, right? On the front page, it says something along the lines of like, I will print any story in Northeast Mississippi, no matter how big or small or controversial. If the Daily Journal, which is the local Tupelo paper, will not tell your story, I will. And so Kevin emails Everett his story.
Okay, then.
And also leaves a voicemail with him, but never hears back. And then Everett meets a woman named Janet, which he would eventually marry. Again, not sure on the years. I think that does happen like several years later. And then start a family. And similar to Kevin, when Kevin started a family, he realizes that he doesn't actually have the amount of money that he needs to like really make ends meet once kids come into the picture, and a mortgage and a wife and all this stuff. And so,
do you know how long it takes for a working man to save $1,000?
Much longer than I want. And so he ends up studying to get a job to sell insurance.
Okay. Boy, I didn't know how profitable insurance was in northern Mississippi.
Yeah, sure didn't. And so he ends up getting a job at Jack Curtis Insurance Agency.
Hell yeah.
And I think some sources said 2006, some said 2007. But the day Everett walks into the insurance like office, Kevin happens to be there getting some computer work done, because it's 07. And maybe his Gateway 3000 or whatever isn't working.
Jack is such a good older brother.
Oh my God, yeah. Oh my God, yeah. At least that's from all of the information I have. Yes. So Kevin happens to be there, and he remembers Everett walks in and immediately starts handing out business cards.
Nice.
I forgot this other weird rabbit hole I went down. One side of the business card says his name and like says that he sells life insurance, that he's like has whatever qualifications you need to sell life insurance. And then the other side is his Mensa membership. Do you know what Mensa is?
No.
Okay. I didn't either. I thought it might be something that he made up. It's not. I did Google it. It is an aptitude test for like a high IQ society.
Oh, yikes.
Yeah. So there is a Mensa International, and then there's an American Mensa. The International Mensa looks more legit for sure. They have like conferences, events, and like the whole shebang. This is their like little like memo thing. I don't know. Quote, Mensa International is the largest and oldest high IQ society in the world. It is a nonprofit organization open to people who score at the 98th percentile or higher on a standardized, supervised IQ or other approved intelligence test. And at first that website didn't work when I clicked on it. And so I was like, okay. It did work when I clicked on it like later, but I was like,
site's down for construction.
yeah,
Sorry.
I was like, okay. And so anyway, I went to the Mensa US website, and that one was working at the time. And it also had the same logo that Everett's like card had.
Okay.
And so honestly, the American Mensa feels like a scam. I'm sure it's not. If you're a Mensa member, I'm sorry. But you have to take like a supervised approved test, right, to be a member. And so you could take a practice test. It's going to cost you $10 though.
Of course.
You can take a supervised test, a private or like an in-group one, and that one's $60. Or you can take a private one for $90, which in the grand scheme of taking tests is not actually that much, but it still feels like a scam when the rewards that you're getting for that membership are not good.
Also, like, I don't know enough about it, but at this point, gut's telling me IQ tests are kind of a scam. What do you mean you can test for intelligence?
Exactly.
And how is that not the neighbor of eugenics? But whatever.
Yes.
Okay.
And so the US one, I made an account on a fake email just to see, because I tried.
Is that why we got? No, I'm kidding.
No. So I went to click like buy practices because I wanted to see how much it was for this, and so it made me make an account. So I gave him like my email that I give everyone that I don't check anymore.
Good.
And it showed me that it was $10, and then I looked at like what the member benefits are. You get access to a private job board. Sure, that can be useful. I doubt many people use it, but sure. You get access to a newsletter.
Oh. I usually get those for free, so that's great.
You get like a special certificate that says you're a Mensa member, so you can tell people you're a Mensa member, which it seems like Everett does a lot of. And then you also get, are you ready for this? 35% discount on HP products, 10% discount on pet insurance, 15% discount on choice hotels, 20% discount off publishing service, 10% discount off courses from Johns Hopkins, and an @member@.mensa.org email address.
Well, that email address is good if you need an email address to burn, you know? MENSA?
Yeah.
Interesting.
They call it a vanity email address on the website.
Duh.
So funny to me. I'm like, whatever. Anyway, Mensa International's website does seem more legit. Like they host a lot of events and gatherings, and like they have like I don't know, like interest groups and stuff. They do like chess tournaments, like whatever. They seem to be more legit. Mensa International does have a free IQ test you can take, and yes, I did take it.
How'd you score?
We'll get there.
Not good, listener.
No, I scored
Not
fine.
good.
I don't want to be a part of this group.
Yeah, no, I understood. I mean, you can't, but I get it.
Literally, you take it, bitch. So you have to score the 98th percentile, but they also say like many times when you go, you have to scroll like all the way down this page to like click on to take the test, and it's like this score does not. It like is not an official IQ. This score, like your score will not qualify you to be a member of Mensa. Like this is just like a practice test to see where you like rank and all this. The entire test, you get 30 minutes for 35 questions, and it's just pattern recognition. Like it's literally a 3x3 square, and there's one square that's empty, and it's just like these nonsensical patterns, and you just have to click which like pattern out of like multiple choice you think goes in that last box. And my little fucking engineer rat brain fucking loved that shit until I realized it was 35 questions and not 30 like my brain was telling me. And I had like 2 minutes left, and there's so many points in this test that I was like, am I really doing this? I was like, I'm already 15 minutes in. Like, I gotta finish. There's only 30 questions.
Me with grad school.
Yeah. So I finished question 30, and I was like, fuck yeah, I did it. I had 2 minutes left, or like a minute and 30 seconds or whatever. And then it went to question 31, and I was like, fuck it, finish. And they were like, are you sure you don't want to go back and check your answers? I was like, no!
Send it.
I want to be done. I got 121, which is, as they say, in the 92nd percentile. 5. I can't do math.
This show's been sponsored by Colorado School of Mines. Colorado School of Mines. Mensa member.
No, I am not.
Member FDIC.
Member FDIC. That's really funny. I did take a screenshot. I don't remember if it's... Oh, yeah. I don't think it actually tells me if I'm qualified. It just says, like... It literally just says, like, your IQ, and then it says, are you smart enough for Mensa? And then it just says that the test is like based in Norway. It's like, this seems really secure, guys. I think BuzzFeed might have gotten a better answer. But... Okay. So we're meeting. Yep. Okay. Anyway, he does that. Everyone's kind of like, okay, thank you for your business card. Laura, however, remembers seeing him and thinking he was attractive.
Okay.
She says, and I quote, I love a receding hairline.
Shut up.
That, to me, is the hottest thing.
Pencil thin mustache, receding hairline. Owns a bowling alley.
Are you ready for this photo?
Absolutely.
This photo is in like a decade later.
This
maybe?
is hot Everett. Yeah. Oh.
Why does he look like he's like trying to do like...
He's like trying to model.
Yeah, he's like trying to smize at a camera that's not in front of him.
Listener, just so you can follow along with us, we have jeans, white button-up, charcoal gray sports coat.
Sure.
Clearly a blue undershirt that is not supposed to be an undershirt.
Nope.
Definitely got the receding hairline, but has the little coif of like a
hair. That he's like trying to pull
mascarpone
forward.
peak at the top. And then cup with a spoon, and he's holding it in his right hand in just the douchiest way possible.
Yeah. Wait till I'll tell you later when this photo was taken. It'll make you so mad.
I don't know if this man is on his way to a rural wedding or a rural funeral, because it's the same.
Yeah. Wait,
outfit.
That's so funny. I love that.
As I've said before, I do really feel like one of my greatest gifts is my ability to describe an insult.
Yeah.
But it's so
It's
unapplicable.
so
outside
accurate.
of
Like
this.
he's literally like doing that thing with his eyebrows where he looks like a frat boy that you'll see in a bar with his hat not on his head. Like he's making that face at you, you know?
Yeah.
So anyway, that's Everett. At this point in the office, just to like give you an idea of their office culture, so there's a employee named Brandon who's self-described best friends of Laura, and she has the name Secretary at this point, but it's like okay, the weird part is that nickname was given to her by, I think, Kevin's stepdad. The not weird part is that she fully embraces it, thinks it's funny, and like takes it all the way. Like she's like, fuck yeah, I'm the secretary, and like lives it to its fullest.
It's either like Kim Cattrall's character Samantha in Sex and the City, or like a Jenna Maroney sketch from 30 Rock, one of the two. But like a construction worker whistles at her, and she just yells, "Thank you." Same vibe.
Thank you. The other day I was walking the dogs and these two motorcycles drove past me, and one of them slowed down like and did a double take at me, and I wasn't with Casey, so I was like, oh no. And he turns around and does like one of these at me, and I literally I was so not in the mood. I'm never in the mood, by the way, but I just went
nice.
And then a second later I was like, maybe I shouldn't have done that. That seems dangerous. But he literally
your
just like,
three-legged dog will protect you. It's good. That's good.
Bowser will bark maybe.
Without his emotional support bowl,
run.
he'll do nothing.
True. Okay, anyway, so she's the secretary. She says, quote, "I tried to make the office a sexually charged atmosphere." I love her so much.
Not that I try. That's absolutely incredible.
I tried to make the office a sexually charged atmosphere because it was my only fun I had in life was at this office. I'd wear the low cut. I'd wear the short dresses, the stiletto pumps. I was happy there flirting with all these men. It was so much fun. Hell yeah, girl, get your tits out.
I mean, literally get your tits out.
Literally get your tits out. And then Brandon, her friend, said, quote, "Laura was my best friend in the office. She was always dressed very provocative. Honestly, it made the work environment really good. We had like a 0 turnover rate."
That's like so Meredith from The Office coded.
Yeah, right? Oh my God. Yeah, that's so real. Okay. Laura remembers that she thought Everett was very attractive, and that she was attracted to him, and that he was always complimenting her at work. Another thing I read pretty late on in the research that I didn't write down. At one point, she notices Everett's whole outfit is like very formal, but it's like your eyes are kind of drawn down to his shoes because he has a broken shoelace on one of them. Okay. And so she's like, "Oh, what's up with your shoelaces?" And he was like, "Oh, I haven't gotten around to like getting another one or whatever." And then the next day, she was like, "I have one of those at home." And so the next day she brought it to him, and he was like so touched. He was like, "This is the nicest thing anyone has ever done for me."
I have just left the Secret Service, CIA, FBI job that I had. Mm-hmm. And that's why I'm dressed like this. And thank you.
And also, she remembers that he would flirt with her and call her beautiful and all this stuff. But at this point, he's engaged to Janet, I think her name is.
Sure.
And
well, he's just trying to maintain the sexually charged culture at work.
And at some point says something like, "People expect me to marry Janet, so I need to marry Janet," or something like that. And she's
Damn it, Janet.
Damn it, Janet. Janet seems lovely. She's in the docuseries. Okay. So anyway, Jack however, was not super impressed with Everett at first. He said, quote, "It was almost like he was trying to give a speech every time he talked to you." Say it in a mirror.
Okay, continue.
And so Kevin is aware of who Everett is because of the political paper that he had reached out to, right? Asking for an interview or to publish his stuff or whatever. And Everett shows that he knows who Kevin is because according to Kevin, Everett walks in, sees him, and then kind of goes, "Is that Kevin Curtis back in there?"
Oh.
And then walks up and introduces himself and asks how he's doing. The story is told differently based on the interview that you read. However, another one said that
another instance, like, so there's a gun to my head. I'm slapping him across the face, right? And yelling, "Body parts, body parts, body parts." Yeah, I'm there.
Yeah, and so there, I think another interview that probably happened closer to the timeline of events, Kevin said that he walked up and introduced himself to Everett at first and said, "I actually already contacted you." So it really depends. Kevin, however, really quickly spills the beans and says, "I've already emailed you for your paper. So did you get my phone call? I thought you'd print any story, no matter how controversial." And Kevin asks Everett if he's ever heard of body parts being illegally harvested and sold. And it seems like Everett's shocked by the news, wide eyes, holy shit, tell me more. And at some point, Everett is saying things along the lines of Mississippi has problems and I want to fix them, talking about corruption in Mississippi. So Jack's impression.
Meanwhile, Jack's like, "We just need to sell insurance.
We just need to sell life insurance. Please shut up."
Tired dad meme.
Yeah, the cigarette out back.
Exactly.
So Jack takes this as a sign that Everett might have some secret agenda to get into politics. And so Everett also tells Kevin that, quote, "To print anything about the hospital in Tupelo would ruin my campaign," which certainly doesn't help Kevin's mindset. By all means, let's keep that conspiracy going,
about
y'all.
corruption going all the way to the top.
All the way to the hospital.
Northern Mississippi Rural Medical Association of Tupelo County.
Yes. Lee County.
Right.
Get that right. Get that right. Okay, so Kevin remembers coming to the realization that he thinks Everett doesn't like him. It's just such a funny thing.
Oh, I get it. You hate me. Am I wrong? Is that
That's literally it.
I do love being a high school teacher sometimes.
I'm just gonna set myself on fire.
I resign.
Okay.
Good.
In an interview with GQ in 2013, Laura remembers that after Kevin left, Everett said, quote, "I never want to see that guy again." And Kevin's like, "I don't think he likes me." Okay. In 2007, Everett announces his run as a Republican for the House against incumbent Democrat Steve Holland, who we will talk a lot more about in just a little bit. So just you wait. He's going to have some zingers and you're going to be like, "Tell me more about this man."
And this is in what year?
This is in 2007.
He announces his run? Okay.
I think at this point, Steve Holland has had 5 terms.
Okay.
Anyway, and Everett claims he has the support of the Republicans. He claims that he was told by higher powers, whatever that means, that his political career would be paved in gold. I did see another quote from, I think, the leader of the Republican Party in whatever region that is, saying "I knew he was gonna get his shit kicked in."
Nice.
So I don't know.
You don't mess with Steve Holland in a street fight. Let me tell you that much.
Dude. Steve Holland is I love that man so much. Okay. The senator for the region, I think it's a senator for the region.
Congressman for the region. Senators for the state. So the congressman for
that. Yeah, so
part.
I believe this is the senator. So
for the entire state of Mississippi.
I think for the state of Mississippi. Okay. Yeah, because the House is Steve Holland. That's for the region.
Right.
So senator for the state is Republican Roger Wicker, who allegedly, per Everett, supported Everett and Roger Wicker is also interviewed by the documentary. And so we hear this interview.
Really? Wow. Okay.
Oh, yeah. And I think because he's still in office, right? I'm pretty sure. They showed pictures of his office. So I think he's still there. But the director asks, quote, So we're trying to find out more about Everett's political history. And Roger says, yeah, I can't really help you there. I can't help you. I may have met Dutschke twice or maybe just once. I was aware of him. And they cut to photo after photo after photo after photo of Roger with Everett at various events. Good. And then Everett says, Roger Wicker used to love me. And then I think after the director pushed Roger on this a little bit, Roger said, I played a very minor part. Now, your story should give about 30 seconds to my part. I mean, Steve Holland is the main character of this story. We're going to see this one more time where Roger's just a slippery dude. Like, he is not about to ingrain himself in this story.
I do declare, I don't think my story is more than 30 minutes, 30
Which you're not from the
seconds
South because the rest of these men are, like, in it, you know? He's just a politician. There are big names in the Republican Party that seem to fully support Everett at this time. Like, and this is backed up by Janet, his fiancée or wife at the time. That they were like shaking hands, going to events, writing checks for his campaign, all of the whole shebang. In the 2007 election, this is the first time Steve had run against anyone in 16 years.
Oh.
And this is a quote from Steve. Quote, I had not had an opponent in over 16 years. I don't know who Everett Dutschke was, but I did know he must be truly stupid to run against the Undertaker. And then he says...
The Undertaker?
Oh, and we'll talk more about that, yeah. Quote, Lee County could not dream of a legislature without me, so you've got to get up mighty early and go to bed mighty late if you want to topple me. Just like banger after banger. And this is another quote that wasn't in the docuseries, but was in a bunch of other sources that says, I had never stood eyeball to eyeball or dick to dick with the man, but for some reason, he just hated the hell out of me. What?
Like, I say stuff sometimes, and I'm like, I don't know where that came from. I have never stood eye to eye, or for that matter, dick to dick. But for whatever reason, he hated me.
What?
That was from Steve Holland?
Yes.
About Everett.
Yes.
Okay.
There are moments when they're interviewing Steve Holland where they like keep the camera on for like a second longer than like a normal docuseries would cut it, and you just see him just so happy with himself and what he's just said. It's incredible. Okay. So during the election, Everett knows that he has to make a big impact if he is going to have a chance at beating Steve. And so he really he puts his whole badussi into it. He has videos on the internet presenting conspiracy theories as if they're his own original ideas.
Good.
One of the videos talks about how Bush could have blown the levees and killed like the white towns. Whatever. I'm not even going to get into it. This is
Everett Dutschke, who's like George W. Bush, who kind of famously abandoned New Orleans, famously black majority city, blew up the levees to drown the white folks of Louisiana.
So. Something like that.
Okay.
I could be wrong. I didn't write all of it down. He does end the video by saying, George Bush hates white people.
Which is crazy because of what Kanye West said.
Yes.
You know what he said.
No, wait, what?
So 2005, Hurricane Katrina is happening. President Bush tours like one of the like essentially refugee centers.
Right.
As these impoverished Americans, most of them were black, had like relocated there because their home was underwater.
Yeah.
And he's walking around and looks at his old mom, former First Lady Bush, and goes, well, and this whole setup is better than what some of those people were living in beforehand. And then Kanye West says on air, and I quote, George Bush doesn't care about black people.
Cut to...
yeah, that was the last thing that Kanye West said that was correct.
Like, kind of right, yeah.
Right. I saw this great... Listeners, you'll love this. Kanye West would be in a conservatorship today if he was a woman.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I want to say. Continue.
So wait, I don't even know what company does them. I'm not going to bother explaining. There's like a gay guy. It's like a TV show. There's a gay guy and they're bringing him men with like no pretense, and he's allowed to like interact with them for like less than 10 seconds, and he has to like kind of guess if they're straight or gay, and then they're going to tell him at the end what was right. One of the questions he asks is like, what was Britney Spears doing in 2007? I think it was whatever the year it was that she like really melted down. Yeah. And he just went, not much. Like, I don't think. And he went straight.
Correct.
Yeah.
I'm actually really sad I missed her Vegas residency, even though I know it was a part of her prison. It was an incredible show.
Yeah. Yeah. Good. Okay. So also this video where he's saying these like conspiracy theories, this particular one that I'm referencing where he says George Bush hates white people. He's holding his phone like the weirdest way you could possibly hold it. But he's also like, or whatever camera he's using. And then he's like in the mirror and he's just making direct eye contact with the camera lens, completely straight face. But he has this like smirk like he knows something you don't. He's like, George Bush hates white people. And it's like, bro, what the fuck?
It's like, just turn the camera around, babe.
Yeah, you have the mirror right there.
That's funny.
Yeah, crazy. Okay. He also uses everything he can. Everett uses everything he can to smear Steve's name, including his paper. Steve says that he called him gay, I put in parentheses, as an insult, comma, thief, communist, and like a bunch of names under the sun. And then he calls him a boss hog. Boss hog is the name of a character in Dukes of Hazzard, which I have not seen, but I did look up. And so I'm so sorry. But while Boss Hog is technically the antagonist in the scope of the show, he is considered the political power and the town's of the town and the county commissioner. So he has this big white hat, wears this like all white suit and white shirt underneath, and then he's often seen smoking a cigar. And I think Steve just
Colonel Sanders. Yeah, gotcha.
Steve just kind of like adopts that. Like almost every time that we see him in the docuseries, he's wearing a hat. It's not white, but he's always smoking a cigar. And I do think on some of his like political posters, they have like a cartoon image of him as Boss Hog.
Absolutely.
Fucking incredible.
He knows what he's doing.
He knows what he's doing. And so Everett also photoshopped Steve's face onto pictures of Boss Hog to post on social media. And Steve's quote is, "It was offensive and funny." He was pretty clever. It's just like Steve Holland does acknowledge that Everett ran a tough campaign, and during the campaign Kevin also admits that he begins to admire Everett a bit for like his tenacity and everything. So the biggest event in the election was Verona, I believe. It seems like a fair or something in the biggest precinct in Lee County. Everett admits that his speech was written to be scathing, like just lie after lie after lie. He doesn't say it was lies, but like he basically says all of the like crassest comments he can about Steve Holland in his speech and his mother, Sadie Holland. And Everett basically tried to crucify him and his reputation. And Steve even says that like he probably could have gotten away with it unless Sadie Holland. So if you'll remember, Sadie Holland is the woman at the beginning, the 80-year-old that got the first letter. Sadie Holland goes up to the podium to speak and calls Everett up again and said to his face in front of everyone that this is obviously Steve's recollection of what she said, but "I am ashamed of you. You just told the biggest pack of lies I ever heard in my life. Get on your knees and apologize right now." And he did.
Sadie Holland's a judge. She's also...
She's a judge.
Okay.
We're going to talk more about what she, like, her standing in the community, but she's a judge. And I do believe she's had interactions with Everett up to this point. There was some...
What's the event she does this at again?
At like a county fair or something that I think she was set to speak at anyway. Probably like repping her son. Yeah.
Fascinating.
And so he does. Public embarrassment. However, Everett, to this day, denies that he did that. Kevin, however...
Please tell me there's video.
I don't think there is. Kevin was there to perform as part of, like, the Elvis Tribute Artist Act, and he says he saw it, though. And so, you know...
That time before smartphones, where there's not 100 cameras in the crowd.
Steve won that election 85-15.
Yep, that sounds... Oh, fuck.
That's a
shit.
smackdown. And so Steve says, quote, "Which is what you call an ass whooping in this part of the world. I beat the ever living hell out of him."
I need to see Steve. I need to Google
I'll show
a picture.
you. Wait, don't. I'm going to show the clip of the video I'm going to show you.
Okay.
Is going to show him. It's going to introduce him in the light I want you to see him.
Okay.
You can look up pictures of him later.
Will do.
Yeah, okay.
85-15.
Yeah, isn't that crazy? As a Democrat in Mississippi is wild to me.
Yeah.
Right? So Kevin continues to contact Everett with information about the body parts, obviously.
Sorry, I forgot that. Yeah. We're back to it. Okay.
We're back to body parts. And he never hears back. And at this point, Everett now says that he had seen the email and thought Kevin's logic was stupid. And so he was like, I'm never going to do that. Kevin feels like something's not right. And in his world, not right could mean a lot of things. But once asked, Laura told Everett that Kevin is obsessed with him. Thanks, Laura. Jesus. And one day at a company lunch, Kevin busts into the restaurant and sees Everett sitting close-ish to Laura, and he loses his mind again.
Laura kind of causes some accidental drama in this story.
The way that the docuseries also presents it is that they don't really reveal that they had gotten a divorce or when, and so it really feels a lot more dramatic than I think it actually was at the time.
I mean, it doesn't paint Kevin in a good light when you know that they're divorced.
Yes, exactly. But it also, like, in that sense, it makes Laura look worse because you think they might still be married, but whatever. I mean, they do have a close relationship and whatever. Kevin calls Everett out for ghosting him, and Everett tells him that he will not be printing that information. Everyone else at the company lunch kind of says that Everett looked like scared shitless in that moment. But Kevin does lose it, and he goes off on how Everett must be being paid off, and also tells Everett that he is not allowed to date Laura, which is like...
Stay away from my daughter wife.
Yeah. What?
But Daddy, I love him.
But Daddy, I love him. And so, of course, Everett has lost that election. Everett kind of goes quiet a little bit after that. Jumping forward a bit. Oh, yeah. He is no longer allowed to participate in like Republican Party events. It's not clear if he's not allowed to or if he chooses to like recuse himself.
Right.
One way or another, he's not as big of a face in the Republican Party in Mississippi. And then jumping forward a bit to 2008, he runs as a Democrat to be the Lee County Election Commissioner because he claims, get this, the 2011 election was fixed.
Hold on. Sorry, let me run this again.
Yeah.
So in 2007, 2008, he runs against Steve Holland.
2007, he runs against Steve Holland.
Okay. For the 2008 election.
Yeah. And then in 2008, he runs to be, as a Democrat, to be the Lee County.
Runs, loses, and then immediately runs again, just with a different party.
Yes. To be the election commissioner because he thinks the election was stolen from him. And then he loses that election too.
Nice.
And then he drops out of politics and quits his job as an insurance broker and then starts a band called Robo Drum, which
I know them. Okay. Could you imagine?
Which someone described as, quote, angry man with guitar. And it also continues saying, quote, he used lights, strobes, flares, and people would come to concerts with glow-in-the-dark hula hoops. So Everett played the electric guitar. He had like a rapper, I think, with him, and then also a singer that would also play piano. That's from like the brief snippets I got.
Okay.
I think there were at least 3 people in the band, and it was kind of successful. They went on the road. They played a Six Flags tour and also Atlanta Pride. And they also won some...
What?
Sorry, dude, I don't know. Also some smaller regional awards. They won an MTV award in 2011 and nominated for Best Indie Band in 2012 and 2013.
By who, MTV?
I don't know.
Okay.
I like... And that information didn't even come from a website that he manages. Like, I don't understand. But then other people that were interviewed said that it was like really bad music. Like someone said, a bar manager that they would like do open mic night at said it was horrible. Every time he got up there, the entire bar flooded outside.
Oh.
So I'm really at a loss if this was a good band or not. So anyway, that's Everett Dutschke. Now we're going to talk about Steve Holland. So in 2008, Kevin decides to make use of the momentum caused by Michael Matramarino or whatever his name is.
Okay.
The body parts thing getting uncovered. And he drafts up what he believes to be groundbreaking legislation. House Bill Resolution 6631, which would stop the illegal sale of human body parts in the state of Mississippi. Please note there at this point, no evidence of illegal body parts being harvested and sold in Mississippi. That was all other states that this was uncovered in. And so he sent this draft to his state representative, Steve Holland, the only one.
U.S. representative.
Yeah.
For the federal government.
Yeah, not state. Yeah. The only one with the power to get this into law.
Right.
And so... Yeah, I can't even begin to tell you how much I love this docuseries and how much I love Steve Holland. So
Am I going to be able to watch this documentary when you're done?
Yeah.
Or will
yeah.
will all the spots be ruined?
Honestly, I think it's just so well done that you can still like fully enjoy it.
Okay.
Like the story, you'll know the story, but
we're back, by the way.
So good.
Clarified, Steve Holland
is a state representative.
State representative, not federal.
Yeah. Isn't that fucking incredible, though?
It's hilarious.
Yeah.
The little lightning strike.
Okay, so I just showed Grant. If you want to watch what I just showed Grant, it's episode 1 of the docuseries. I started around 44 minutes, 55 seconds until the big reveal I'm about to say. So the color grading of like this big intro is just so good, and you hear like him playing the organ in the background as just like this badass fucking music overlaid with Steve like talking and clips of Steve in action. And he starts out saying like, in politics, I was so powerful. If I'd have been born in 1776, I would have been the leader of the fucking revolution. And then he says, somebody's gotta be king. It's windy up top. I love him so much. And then there's another clip of him at the podium in the House, and he says, this is a ridiculous piece of legislation, and as far as I'm concerned, the chairman ought to be ashamed for bringing it out here. And he's just like, it's very clear that he thinks highly of himself, that I think everyone in his precinct thinks highly of him.
Right.
He also says, quote, truth be told, I could fuck a bull moose on the south steps of the Lee County Courthouse and gain 10% of the vote.
So he's also not afraid to have an opponent.
No. And then Grant already saw this, but this is the screen grab.
Yeah, incredible photo.
He's wearing this like wide brim hat walking through the courthouse.
He looks like he sells newspapers in the 1920s.
In a good, like as a compliment,
yes.
though, a little bit, yeah.
Like in a Christian Bale and Newsies kind of way, but like not like that, but like still in a positive way.
Yeah. And then the best part is that's all just the intro. And while you're seeing all of these visuals, he's playing the organ. And at the end of the intro, it cuts to the footage of him playing the organ. And as he hits the last note of the song, he looks to the camera and says, hello and welcome to Holland Funeral Directors.
Because he
owns a funeral home and he's a funeral director. Him and his mother both co-own funeral homes, Holland Funeral Directors. And so, as you can imagine, this doesn't help fucking Kevin because now he's really fucking red stringing all this shit together. And so he says, can you imagine the moment I had when I discovered that our Mississippi state representative, Steve Holland, owned 3 of the largest funeral homes in the state of Mississippi? And then Steve says, this is such a good quote. Yes, sir, I'm the Mississippi undertaker. I'm the taxidermist of humankind. I see everybody in this county, one way or another.
Whoa. That's the kind of thing that when you say in the South, everyone's like, I love American Gothic. But if you say it like in the West, everyone's like, ew.
Can you not? Like, oh my God, incredible. Yeah, Steve Holland, I've said this a couple times, is such a character. He was made for the screen. Him and his mother opened up funeral homes together. She passed in 2020 from a heart attack, and Steve is a self-professed mama's boy. He talks about how much he misses her. Also, he embalmed his own mother.
Oh.
They own their own funeral home. And he says he didn't want anybody else to do it. He didn't trust anyone else.
Ooh.
Yeah, weird thing, yeah.
I mean, I don't really know the process of embalming, but it feels intimate.
Yeah.
In
parts. I do think at some point I read he got really good at embalming, so it was a very like prideful practice for him, and then at some point he found out that he's allergic to formaldehyde, so he had to stop. I don't know if it was an allergy he developed, but now he's unable to do it. So I don't know if that happened before or after he embalmed his mom.
Okay.
But yeah. I think the interview did say he's only able to embalm if he wears like a full hazmat suit. So maybe he did still embalm her. I don't know, whatever. So the interviews with him feel very Wes Anderson in terms of like framing and the comedic timing of some of the lines. At one point he picks up the phone and you can hear the person on the other end of the line ask where they can hold services. Obviously this is like probably staged, but Steve's response is, quote, we can have it here at the church. We can have it at the bar, at a whorehouse. It really doesn't matter where you want to have it. Just make sure your undertaker's invited. Fucking incredible. And then he says, I put the fun in funeral.
Jeez. Okay.
Yeah. At another moment, they're in their embalming room, like doing an interview or something. And they get interrupted because someone comes in to tell Steve that they have bodies coming in. And you can hear a bag kind of being unzipped, and Steve just goes, oh no, like keep that, like zip that back up, keep that closed. And then he must see the face because he says like perfectly cheerfully as he walks out of frame, oh, it's Gladys. I know she had the diabetes. What?
He sees everyone in Lee County one way
or
or
another.
Jeez.
Fucking beautiful. So Steve remembers receiving the House bill resolution from Kevin. He says that he opened it, read it, ripped it up, and threw it in the trash.
Right.
He said, quote, when I read Kevin's House bill, first thing I thought, another fool lives in my district. So obviously not good things for Kevin.
Right.
Not good things for his mental state. He's like, he thought he's drafting this amazing bill to like solve the problem of illegal body, the non-existent problem of illegal body parts being sold in the state of Mississippi. And now the only person with the power to pass that legislation through is someone that he thinks in his mind would have a stake in the benefits of selling those body parts. So this next section is called Between the Lines. So back to Kevin. He's still trying to connect the dots, and he thinks the conspiracy for the body parts has led him to Steve Holland and Sadie Holland and Holland Funeral Directors.
Right.
He never got any indication that Steve had read or received the bill, despite the fact that Steve definitely read and received it.
Right. Despite
desperately trying to get a hold of Steve to discuss the bill, he tried calling, faxing, emailing. He never heard back anything as to why, or he never heard anything back or even got any indication as to why he wasn't going to hear anything back. And then Steve says, why? I'll tell you why. I established the first ever program for organ donation in the state of Mississippi. Oh my God, it saved so many people's lives. It's unbelievable. So why would the author of an outstanding program introduce a bill to kill it? Don't make sense. Like he don't make sense. So back to Kevin. It's making sense to him.
Right.
Now, everything's coming together. It's all coming together, you know? So clearly, Steve Holland is harvesting bodies out of the back of his funeral home. So Kevin believes Steve is scared that Kevin can use what he, quote, knows to bury Steve. And Steve's quote is, I'm not scared of anything or anybody. I mean, when I see a beast, it needs to be slayed. It needs to be at least dissected. And then that's a moment where he like giggles at the camera. He's like so proud of himself. And then I'm not sure the year on this. I don't think anyone ever disclosed the year. I tried to do as much digging as I could on this one, y'all. But Kevin Curtis gets hired by Roger Wicker and his wife to come to their house to perform at an engagement party that they were throwing for someone.
As Elvis?
Yes.
Oh my God. So what is Roger Wicker doing always in this story somehow?
Dude, he doesn't live that far.
He's a U.S. senator.
But it's still like, are you working?
Right.
Like,
what's going on here?
I don't know. So this article that I pulled this from was written in 2013, and the only indication of any date was someone from Wicker's office saying a decade ago is when he threw the engagement party. So that would put it at 2003, but I think it was probably closer to 708 timeline, but I could be very wrong. I think it was closer to the timeline that he wrote the House bill resolution, and we'll see why in a second. So Senator Roger Wicker hired him, and by all accounts, the performance was really good, and people loved it. To be fair, he doesn't just do Elvis. He also does, like, other classics. He does, like, Prince, Johnny Cash, Billie Holiday, I think, like, a lot of them. And then he does make a whole show out of it, interacting with the audience and everything. After the performance was over, though, Roger Wicker comes up to Kevin and says, according to Kevin, quote, with a twinkle in his eye, something along the lines of, hey, Elvis, got some websites out there that are pretty disturbing. You know, I'm kind of surprised I didn't find you at the bottom of the Mississippi River with cement boots on. Be careful.
Roger Wicker says
according to Kevin.
Oh, okay.
So I think maybe he knew about the body parts, but also maybe probably didn't say it in that way.
Or Roger Wicker was like, weird. When we Google you, there's some weird
so
websites.
Much stuff about body parts out there.
End of conversation. Yeah. And then Kevin's like, that what he knows, and that's a threat.
What Kevin hears is He reads, of course, way too far into it, and he thinks Wicker is saying he knows about Kevin's fight for justice. So his response is, if Steve Holland won't take my bill through like the state house,
right,
I'm gonna send it to Roger Wicker. And so he overnights it to Roger Wicker.
Like a printed off bill?
Yeah, I guess.
Yikes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So eventually, Kevin does get a response from Wicker's office, a hard copy letter, which he thinks is weird. I mean, the timeline, a hard copy letter makes sense. Like in the early 2000s.
There was a signing machine, so we could sign the senator's name onto stuff.
Yeah.
Like you'd hold the letter underneath.
That's
and then,
cool.
Oh, it was really, because it was an actual pen.
Yeah.
You would slide like an actual pen into it, and then it would move in a way that it would sign the senator's signature. Yeah.
That's sweet.
It is, until you are assigned signature factory for the day. Then it's actually pretty monotonous. But the first couple ones are cool.
Can you at least listen to music?
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's
real big summer for Foster the People and Lana Del Rey's first album. So it's mostly hits.
Okay, I mean that's a good time, I guess. So anyway, he receives a hard copy letter, which Kevin thinks is weird and just a way to like not have a paper trail is how he reads it. I read it as being in the early 2000s. But the letter says the resolution is impressive, but he cannot sponsor the legislation because that legislation has to go through Steve Holland. And so he's like...
Because that's Mississippi specific.
And so now all of the dots are still... The red string is really red stringing.
He's like, I knew it. I knew it.
I called this. And so it does seem like Wicker in the docuseries doesn't really want to talk about this because there's a couple moments where Wicker gets caught like in lies with the doc team because they're asking him things and he's like, no, I don't know anything about that. Or like, now that you mention it, I think I've met
Kevin says that or Wicker says
Wicker.
That? And why Wicker agreed to be part of this?
I know, it's shocking to me. It does not paint him in a good light. Yeah, there's moments where Wicker gets caught in lies. Initially, he says he knows nothing about the body parts mission that Kevin was on. And then when he was pressed, he says he actually does remember now that you mention it. And like, it's the same thing with earlier. It's like, you're just a slippery dude that's denying everything. But anyway, regardless, Kevin is now getting frustrated and increasingly suspicious of the players he now believes to be involved. Kevin, at some point, again, not sure on the timeline on this specific thing, he gets a threatening call, basically threatening his children if he doesn't shut his mouth about body parts.
Okay.
Which he takes very personally because, as I mentioned, he still does value his family deeply.
Right.
And this is when we get to meet at least 3 of his kids. I think he has 4, again, not sure. One of his kids, Kennedy, I believe his oldest son, says, quote, "My dad likes being the hero of stories." This gets a little sad. "My dad likes being the hero of stories because then he wouldn't have to be Kevin Curtis," which I don't think he liked very much. The truth is, he was the villain of his own damn movie, of his own hero film. And then Madison, one of his daughters, says, quote, "My dad made me hate 2 things growing up, alcohol and computers. Once the internet existed, he just closed himself off into this room on the computer from the time he woke up to the time he went to bed." And then Bram, another one of his sons, said, quote, "I felt like a lot of this stuff he could just not deal with. I mean, look, he lost his job, his marriage went downhill, his relationship with his family, entire family, not only his kids, went downhill. Honestly, I saw a man who was tortured mentally. I just always felt bad for him."
Oof.
Yeah, that's rough. He still has a relationship with them.
Sure,
I mean,
but
it's definitely
here's
been
an honest
fragmented.
take about what our dad was like growing up.
Yeah, it's a lot. Also, like his oldest son saying like he didn't want to be Kevin Curtis is like that's deep. His kids also remembered that body parts was not the only conspiracy that Kevin Curtis was into. He remembered his discussion of chemtrails, 9/11. It was conspiracy after conspiracy after conspiracy, and they slowly lost the ability to connect with him despite being physically with him. Laura remembers that she would come home with the kids late at night and she would leave the car running while she went in to see if Kevin was stable. I believe this was while they were still married.
Right.
And then if he wasn't, she would turn around and take the kids to McDonald's, where she would use whatever little money she had to buy coffee and French fries for her and the kids. And then she would talk to strangers because she was so lonely. And then this is when the doc implies that Jack gave her a job, but I don't think that's like timeline-wise correct. Jack and Laura do definitely trauma bond though over over Kevin Curtis. Laura says, quote, "He, as in Jack, was my rock and my hero." And then the director says, "Did you start to fall in love with Jack?" And then Laura like gives like a very emotional like groan a little bit, and she says, "My therapist says I did."
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Kevin is aware of the bond forming between Laura and Jack. Unsure again if this was before or after the divorce.
In many ways, Jack's been taking care of the family.
Literally, yeah. And I think this whole thing was like an additional source of insecurity and loneliness and isolation for him that probably pushed him. I mean, again, they weren't intending to, but pushed him deeper into it. It's not like they have a choice or I fault them for it, but another cause and effect. So after the call threatening his kids, he starts to get increasingly paranoid about more and more suspicious activity around him. There's people following him, cars that he doesn't recognize patrolling up and down the cul-de-sac. I think a lot of this stuff that I'm going to mention happened probably before the divorce, but he says his car lights got smashed, his tires busted, like there's pictures too, that because he documented like everything. And so you can see that a lot of it does look somewhat intentional, like a nail stabbed through the side of his tire, and it's like bullets left in his mailbox. At one point, Laura was trying to leave with the kids, and she like turns the key, and something explodes under the hood. And so people say that it's a faulty battery, but obviously he's going to take it as like intentional. At some point, his house burned down, which he believed was arson. Laura says it was because a chicken was left on the stove. Oh. Yeah, but he takes all of this as like, someone's targeting me.
His life's falling apart, and then because it's falling apart, he reads it as evidence, and that sucks him deeper into the world, which then his life falls apart even more because how deep he's into the world.
Constant cycle. Yeah. Yep. So Jack and Laura together really don't think he's connected with reality. They think that while the events might be real, like his experiences are real, like the car did get smashed, the house did burn down, the car did explode, that they aren't connected in the way that he thinks they are. At some point, the director asks like what the cause of the fire was, and she says it was chicken left on the stove. And then she has this like mug, like this Yeti mug, and she's like sitting on this couch kind of, and then she's like, "Chicken left on the stove." And then she like cheers it and like starts giggling a little bit, and it's like, girl, I'm not sure how much you've processed.
So she doesn't think it's conspiracy. She's like, he's irresponsible and burned his own house down.
No, I think she does think it's conspiracy.
Oh.
I think she's just so been dealing with it for so long that now a lot of it doesn't seem as serious to her.
Okay.
And this was filmed in like 2023, so she's had like decades now to like talk this through, and obviously she's been in some amount of therapy. But so Kevin starts upping his game. He starts going door to door to spread the word about the corruption in Mississippi. Yeah. He starts asking people what they know, and then there's videos of him in like what I picture like multi-level marketing scheme like meetings to look like, where you're just like in a house trying to sell people on something. Like there's just people kind of gathered in a living room, and he's just talking about how the DA tried to murder him and pulled a gun on him, and now he like found like everyone's out against him. It's like someone burned his house down and all this stuff, and he's like telling whatever. So remember, 2002 is the year that they actually divorce. But after that, Laura does continue to work with Jack in the law office, and also continues as a backup singer for the brother duo until they end up stopping in 2003. However, she does continue performing with Jack on his performances, which, as you can imagine, does not help Kevin's insecurities. Not that it's Laura's fault, but because of this, Kevin starts getting less and less bookings, while Jack starts getting more and more bookings because he still has like a band and backup singers and all of this stuff.
And like success and money, and he's enjoyable to talk to and be around.
Yeah, and doesn't
he's
just
kind of
talk about
attractive still.
Yep. And they also get fancy bookings. Like they go to Las Vegas, Puerto Rico, Jamaica.
Did not know there was this much money in impersonating Elvis.
I did know that at least at any all expenses paid resort, there has always been some kind of tribute artist like on retainer there.
Sure.
But that's just me. So at a performance in Jamaica, this is why I was trying to find out when they were in Jamaica. I was Googling like Laura Jack Curtis, Jamaica, Elvis Impersonators, Jamaica. And then Google was like,
no, that's not a thing that has an article attached to it.
So In Jamaica, they did a duet where she dressed as Marilyn Monroe and they danced together on stage, him as Elvis, her as Marilyn Monroe. Kevin, they remember being annoyed because Kevin was calling all the time to check up on her and Jack while they're partying it up in Jamaica.
Right.
And he's at home taking care of the kids. A hotel calls him at some point. Allegedly, they call him. He doesn't call them. And they tell him that he found one of her shoes in his brother's room. And they're also showing that they're in the same room together. They have both of them staying in the same room. And yeah. And so he's
saying this hotel called me and told me my ex-wife is staying in a room with my brother, and they're calling to tell me that?
It's premised that happens before they get divorced. So again, I'm not sure because I couldn't find a year. So it could have been before they were divorced. Okay. It could have been that she like left her wallet or something and he was an emergency contact or something. And so they called him, but it really, based off of what I know about Kevin, that he called the hotel to ask about it. Anyway, the director asks Laura, what was your relationship with Jack? And she says, let's see. We were, let's see. This was how do I put this? Okay. Oh, we were close. I'll put it that way. We were close. The director says, too close? Too close? And Laura, no hesitation, says, yes. Yes. Maybe we crossed a line or two. Maybe. Yes. Yes.
Islands in the breeze. I don't know any words beyond that, but
I don't know, but I'm jamming. And this is a quote from Kevin. Jack took my band, took my wife, stole all my gigs, and everybody loves him. Steve Holland.
Go off, King.
Steve Holland says this. Sorry.
Anytime Steve Holland has something to say, I'm so geared for it.
Jack has just become the hero to Tupelo. I just get all worked up when there's this massive bead of sweat rolling out of that black hair and women are throwing him panties and he's wiping his brow with them.
So Steve Holland is like, did I have a crush on Jack? Of course not.
Of course not.
I didn't ask you that question.
That's the vibe I got too. I was like, you like him?
Big old
Steve?
mama boy.
Big old
fan
mama's boy. Yeah.
of the sweaty brow on the working man. Mm-hmm.
I mean...
See, and Jack don't have the diabetes.
Oh, what's Gladys? I know she had the diabetes. Yeah, so I just put another note that I tried to find out when the Jamaica trip happened and I couldn't. So it could be before the divorce, it could be after. I literally, and I mean literally, scrolled through Laura's entire Facebook page. Hoping that she had made it
that shouldn't be
early.
Public. You shouldn't be able to access that.
I was shocked. It's public. But I looked. She seems...
So, slow week at work then? Or?
Yeah, very slow. To be fair, I asked my boss what I could help, and he said, thanks, will do. Let you know if anything comes up, and that was it. I specifically asked, can I help with this? And he said, no action there. And I said, okay. And then continued scrolling down Laura's Facebook.
Good.
She seems like... honestly such a genuine, she just seems like such a classic mom, taking just so many pictures, selfies from all the way up here, wearing the wildest vacation hats.
You're not supposed to know what the subjects of our stories Facebook pages are like. That's a crazy detail to have in the story. I love it.
Thank you.
love that. Needs to be clear as well. I love it, but it's information that I'm processing right now.
No, I was surprised that it was public.
You were surprised. I was surprised.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. All right, then. Well.
But she left it out there, so I'm going to look. And so at some point, Kevin does threaten his brother if he finds out that Jack and Laura had an affair, and then we hear nothing more about that. So Anyway, the next section is called red stringing.
Just this next section.
Yeah, he hasn't been doing that at all. Kevin, unsurprisingly, has been avidly posting on social media saying, quote, drunk gasling DA threatened me with a gun.
Drunk gasoline?
Gunslinging, sorry. Gunslinging DA.
Threatened me with a gun.
Yep.
And this is an event that's now a while ago.
I think
this
so.
This is a whole election ago.
Again, timelines are a bit confusing, but he does post it on social media, strongly insinuating that David Daniels had something to do with this whole body parts thing. David Daniels then approaches Jack and says that if the Curtis family promises to get Kevin the help/medications that he clearly needs, I won't necessarily disagree with that he, David, will not press charges for assault on Kevin.
Okay.
The family kind of talks and decides that, like, Kevin's an adult. We can't, like, force him to do that.
Interesting.
And just says, like, we can't agree. I don't know if that's, like, we want you to press charges, or like we don't want to help him, or we don't think we can help, or whatever. But they like say no to David. So he files it, and the police come to arrest Kevin. David alleges that Kevin assaulted him with a beer bottle. Kevin does try to get representation. However, because David is an assistant DA, no one that he calls can take the case because they all have
a working relationship,
conflict of interest, because they know David. So he literally has to go in. And so he takes this as, I'm being forced to represent myself, you know, which, like,
I made like 2-3 phone calls. No one can represent me.
Yeah. So I can understand how that feels to him.
Sure.
It definitely puts you in a place of, like, helplessness, but also, like, do we know how many? Whatever. I'm not going to victim blame in this situation, or I don't know, assaulter blame.
Question the legal strategy of a man who is dubious in almost every part of his life. Yeah, I understand.
Yeah. So anyway, he does. He shows up to trial with no representation, and so he sits down. He looks up to the judge, and it's none other than Sadie Holland.
Hell yeah.
Steve Holland's mother. But now he's really red stringing. He's like, now these people are conspiring to put me behind bars.
Is a kangaroo court.
He literally says that.
Shut up. Does
in the
he really?
documentary. Yeah, I didn't write it down, but he does say it. Dude.
I'm now increasingly concerned at how many times I can foresee the statement coming out because I think it's original.
Yeah. Dude, he has a lot of... Anyway, okay. Sadie is obviously the co-owner of the funeral homes, giving her another stake, on top of the fact that she obviously has a close working relationship with her son and just personal relationship with her son, Steve Holland, who rejected the bill that Kevin toiled over. Kevin's perspective is that he is constantly being told to sit down and shut up, like, during the trial. David's perspective is, quote, I've never seen a grown man throw an angry, screaming fit like that.
Naturally.
Sadie, at some point, tells him to not say another word, because I guess he just, like, won't shut up when it's not his turn to talk, or he'll be in contempt of the court. To which Kevin responds, overruled.
So she's like, sir,
straight to jail.
I am warning you. And he goes, I don't agree.
He literally just says overruled. And then he gets sent to 6 months in Parchment Prison.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
6 months?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right?
That's the first time this entire episode where I'm like, that's a little unfair. A night for sure. A month, yeah, okay.
I don't know if that
Tons of community service. Does that include his assault charge?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
Again.
Because if it does, then it's a lot less shocking.
Yeah.
If it's just like contempt of court, that's a little shocking.
I don't know.
But it's Mississippi. They really are straight to jail down there a lot of times.
Like, it's unfortunate because I think everyone from the outside is like, this is all just like crazy coincidences because we're in a small community and you have like ingrained yourself in an issue that is just so high up there that you're going to run into the same circle of people. And he's just taking it as like sign after sign after sign when it's really just like, oh, you're here too because you were also the leader of this particular thing that we're like
it's also
interested in.
It's a small town.
Yes,
like,
exactly.
Maybe not a tiny town in the same way that some people are like, I'm from a small town, but like, it's not a big town. If you are actively agitating the like leaders of your small town community,
it's a small town,
and there's not a lot of leaders.
No, there's not. You're gonna find the same people over and over again. And so, while in prison, he believes the whole situation is just a conspiracy to shut old Casey up
because he still believes they're trafficking human organs.
Yes. Yeah.
Of dead people. Not that they're killing people to traffic their organs, but just after they're dead, they're trafficking organs.
And then selling them, and getting profit. Yeah.
And that's what gets them riled up.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I'm all for a hobby, so...
I hate to say, I'm at the point in the episode where I'm going to say, like, that's bad and shouldn't be allowed. But like,
listen, I want to be cremated and TBH, whatever you do to my body before that.
I mean, we've both shared like what we would like our like final wishes to be, and they're both a little unusual just in terms of like our relationship with those institutions.
I just don't
and
want
practices.
to be embalmed. Just don't embalm me.
Because
Do
you're
anything
allergic
but
to
embalm me.
formaldehyde.
Yeah, probably. Dude, at some point in the docuseries, Steve Holland gives his like sales pitch for like
Holland funeral services,
selling people up on caskets, and it's amazing. He also does it in the GQ article, and it's like, yeah, I would buy a more expensive casket if you gave me that pitch. Like, damn. He's good. He's good at what he does. Anyway, sorry, not back to Steve Holland, back to Kevin. So he has all the time in the world in this prison to think about all the connections between every little thing that he can think of: the Tupelo hospital, the funeral home directors, law enforcement, sheriff's office, judges, assistant DAs, congressmen, senators, state representatives, all of the above. So the hospital's at the center, right? They're working with the sheriff because he appears in an ad for them. The sheriff is close friends with David Daniels. David Daniels used to work at the building that would eventually be sold to the Hollands to become the funeral home. It used to be like a bar, and so he used to perform at the bar. Steve Holland, who bought the funeral home, is good friends with Roger Wicker. The hospital is federally funded courtesy of Roger Wicker. And then go back a little bit. Sadie was handpicked to be Kevin's judge, which means everyone is making money off of the bodies from the hospital.
So it all goes all the way to the top.
That's the man from the place with the
Cusco.
with Cusco in the back of his van. And so if you find him, we find Cusco.
And this person's going to throw me in jail because they know too much. Mm-hmm. Well, too bad. It's not going to silence me.
Because I'm going to write a book, which he does.
Oh.
He writes a book called Missing Pieces. I don't actually think it's
kind of
been
a killer
published.
title.
Dude, it actually is. Like, I was like, okay.
All right.
Okay.
Clearly you workshopped it.
Yeah. This wasn't the first draft. So he wrote a book called Missing Pieces. I don't actually think it's been officially published. I do think he has like a full digital copy. And I think at some point he released the first few chapters across the internet to ask people what they think. A social media friend that he had named Paulette, I believe their connection was... Remember when Jack bought him the cassette tapes, like personal development cassette tapes, like at the very beginning of the episode?
Yes.
I think that was their initial connection online. So I don't know if they ever met in person, but they would talk online every day. And when she read the chapters of Missing Pieces, she thought they were fiction.
Okay.
In her own words, realized too late that they were not.
Yikes.
I mean, if it reads like fiction, that must mean it's a good story.
Right?
I guess.
Or it's just like literally so unbelievable. You're like, what Tumblr post am I reading right now?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. So anyway, Kevin believes that surveillance of him increased after he released those chapters of Missing Pieces. Madison, his daughter, said, "Yes, my dad is paranoid, but when it comes to the police, he was stalked. He was harassed. He was treated differently. The messed up part is the police who are targeting my dad, they ended up solidifying his reality of the conspiracies." And so, I mean, we have the sheriff earlier on saying, like, as soon as he was fired from the hospital that he was on watch by the sheriff's office, because everyone thought he was going to do something crazy. And so when he started doing things crazy, they started upping surveillance, which made Kevin even more paranoid to like act crazier, you know? So it's like this constant cycle. Kevin says that he was arrested 25 times. His family did try to get him committed for like mental health issues. I don't know how many times he was actually arrested. Another source said 22, a third one said 9, and most sources just said he's been arrested multiple times.
Multiple times, okay.
So, you know. This next section, we're going to go all the way back to the beginning of this episode.
Okay.
Remember when we talked about ricin?
Yes.
It's been a ride since then. We're going to talk about that again. But first, April 9th, 2013. In the morning. So this is a day before Sadie Holland receives her letter.
Okay.
An elephant for the Ringling Brothers Circus is shot in a drive-by shooting.
I don't mean to say excited, but I do remember that in your little preview statement at the start, and I have been hoping I was going to get more clarification.
You're going to get 2 bullets on it exactly.
Okay, thank you.
Subject was a white male driving a white Ford Explorer. Laura and the kids are freaked out because Kevin had been acting particularly out of the ordinary, and he drove a similar Ford.
Ooh.
End of things we know about that.
But okay.
That at least I know about that.
So how does an elephant get shot in a drive-by shooting?
Good question.
So I assume it's by a road.
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
And there's nothing about like why this elephant might have angered him. I mean,
I think it was just because he was acting so erratically that they were like, he could have done anything.
Hard to miss an elephant.
Well, yeah.
Could have been aiming for something else. Hit an elephant. Like that's a possibility.
Did I on my tombstone? Could have been aiming for anything. Hit an elephant.
Like, I think I cracked this case wide open.
Yeah.
It's not
he was actually aiming for the tree
right.
nearby.
It's not what the elephant did. It's what the elephant covered up.
Yeah.
Missing Pieces by Grant Thomas.
So profound. My God.
See, I'm listening. I'm locked and loaded.
Is that elephant supposed to represent Steve Holland of the Democratic Party?
Well, that would be weird because the elephant represents the Republican Party.
Yeah, I mean, he could have gotten that wrong. Oh gosh, somewhere I have a stuffed animal of a donkey because my parents, when Barack Obama came to Denver for the DNC when it was here in like
2008.
Yeah, 2008, whatever that year was. I don't know. They were like, this is such a historic event. We like have to go at least to like the
county fair for the Democrats.
Yeah, the county fair that's outside. We don't actually need to see him. But and then I got a little stuffed animal donkey, and I remember being like, wow, I wish it was an elephant because my whole family's Republican. And now I'm like, where's that donkey? I think I actually know where it might be. I'm gonna look for it after this. Okay. So the next morning, April 10th, is the day that Judge Holland, Sadie Holland, who is Steve's mother, received the letter with the suspicious substance on it. Sadie was sequestered by the FBI and sent to the emergency room. Seems like she was fine after that. Steve was irritated that the FBI wouldn't let him in to see her because he's like such a mama's boy that he was like,
right.
Let me in! Unsure on the timeline here. But I think around April 13th or 14th, David Daniels, that assistant DA, gets a call from a U.S. attorney asking if he got any mail with no return address. David had received something like this, and the U.S. attorney is like, great, don't open it. And so the sheriff realizes at this point, fuck, we have a problem.
Yeah.
April 16th is when news breaks of the evacuations that are happening across D.C. as a result of the discovery of a letter addressed to Roger Wicker containing what they suspect to be ricin. Roger is immediately assigned a secret security detail, and FBI counter-terrorist personnel begin investigating. The timeline here is a bit funky. I'm not sure how much time occurred between Roger Wicker's letter being found and Obama's letter being found. The FBI obviously did not announce Obama's letter being found until the next day, the 17th, in the evening. One of the FBI agents that they interviewed on the docuseries made it sound like they were both discovered in the same night, kind of around the same time.
Sure.
Roger's first and then Obama's, but the news outlets didn't seem to report on Obama's until the following day. Do you want to read the full letter?
Sure. Do you want me to read it out loud?
Yeah, sure. Yes.
No one wanted to listen to me before. There are still missing pieces. Maybe I have your attention now. Even if that means someone must die. This must stop. To see a wrong and not expose it is to become a silent partner to its continuance. I am KC, and I approve this message.
Subtle.
He's going to run against Steve Holland.
Exactly. Exactly. So
like he literally could have just ran for office if he cared about it like this, but instead he's like, I'm gonna murder some people and see what that does for my
you
cause.
literally don't even know what you don't know.
Oh,
I love this.
good.
Okay, this was all hands on deck, especially once the president is involved. FBI, Secret Service, Capitol Police, Postal Service, National Guard, Homeland Security. How much Brooklyn Nine-Nine have you watched?
A bits.
There's an episode where Jake Peralta has to work with the guy who plays Andy in The Office. I can never remember his name, Ed something.
Okay.
Who is a postal service like investigator, and he just thinks he's like the shit.
I love that. I love that energy.
And it's just like, that's what I'm getting. But at some point he falls to the ground and Jake's trying to like chase someone, and Andy's actor, I don't know, grabs his leg and says, help me up. And Jake is like, I can't, we lost him. Anyway. So there's 2 FBI agents that were interviewed, Agent Thomason and Agent Kawaka. So this is Agent Thomason. He says, let me tell you, you send a deadly toxin to the U.S. president, there's a lot of folks going to start trying to figure out who you are. And then Senator Wicker says, I really don't know why this particular individual chose me, but sending the letters to the president was a grave, grave mistake on his part. Agent Kawaka and the rest of the investigation team begin digging in to track the perpetrator down. The letters were postmarked from Memphis, Tennessee, and they're able to use the barcode on the bottom of like the letter that shows that before Memphis, the letter was in Tupelo, Mississippi. And so the FBI goes to the sheriff in Tupelo, Jim Johnson, with the situation, and the sheriff says, wait a minute. This all sounds like this guy that we deal with a lot, Paul Kevin Curtis. And so the FBI contact the offices of John Wicker and Steve Holland, and they tell the FBI that, yeah, we get a lot of communication from Paul Kevin Curtis demanding that we pass House Bill 6631, and also this guy does not seem super stable. The FBI also do a background check, find out that Casey has a criminal record and has been arrested one of those times for the assault of a district attorney or assistant district attorney. And then the FBI also makes a link between Kevin Curtis and Sadie Holland, her being the judge that sentenced him. Then they scrub his social media and find the book Missing Pieces, which is like directly referenced in the letter. And they're like, we got him. So the FBI are convinced that they have a madman on their hands, like someone that's deeply unstable. And so they call to meet up with Jack Curtis, Kevin's brother. And Jack shows up and meets with all these special agents who are like, listen, we need you to tell us where your brother lives. And so he tells them. The agents don WMD, which are hazmat suits, and they're anticipating that they're walking into a very dangerous situation, potentially with someone who is in possession of ricin, which is an incredibly dangerous toxin. And so on the 17th, the same day that Obama's letter is supposedly found, they bust down the door of Kevin's like place.
They find him in like 24 hours, 48 hours.
Yeah.
That's fast. Okay.
To find Kevin eating a steak dinner and listening to a Dolly Parton record.
That's how I want to go.
Yeah, right?
Shoot me from the back. And that's how I want to go.
That's it. That's all I want. He was like, I was eating a steak dinner with ranch dressing. It was like, yeah, unhinged.
Well, hold on now.
I'll try anything once.
Exactly. Twice.
That's right. Yeah, so they move quick. They find him in less than 48 hours, less than 24 hours potentially. There's a whole slew of agents that swarm in, yelling at him to get on the ground. They even tranquilize his little dog, Moo Cow, who's a little chihuahua.
They tranquilize a chihuahua.
Yeah.
Hopefully not with ricin.
Yeah. So sad. They smash the place to bits trying to find evidence, but they take Kevin into custody and take him to an undisclosed location for questioning. They start talking to his family, and his family starts making statements to the public. Jack says at some point that Kevin has a bipolar disorder and at some times come off of his medication. This is really tough because I'm not sure how true that statement is.
Right.
In the documentary, it's not ever mentioned again. Like, they play the clip of Jack saying this, and then they say that Jack says he was just trying to help, which almost makes the listener think, or the viewer think, that like Jack was lying to like maybe set up a case for insanity defense.
Sure.
But then other people also reference it, like, was it a past employer or a past lawyer or something also referenced it at some point, saying that he has a tendency to get off his medications, and when he's on them, he's fine, and when he's off, he's like, he can be really unpredictable. But it also seems like there's a strong chance that it was just fabricated. Yeah. It's really unclear. I did see one article saying where Kevin said that he felt betrayed by Jack for bringing it up, and then that like the only time that he's felt worse was when he was on medication. So again, it's hard to tell, and it's also an important thing to like constantly bring up, that like to talk about mental health is to like work for its benefit and to destigmatize it. The more you destigmatize it, the more you can talk about it. The more you can talk about it, the better everyone can feel about it. And maybe if Paul Kevin Curtis does have a bipolar disorder, he would feel more comfortable about discussing it and trying to find the right medications and all of this stuff. And so to like kind of push it under the rug like the docuseries did. I don't necessarily love to push it under the rug like the family does. I can understand because it is Paul Kevin Curtis's decision to talk about it or not talk about it. But again, it's not something that I necessarily agree with. And
it's like so many things in this story, like at the pivotal moments of Kevin's life, where it's like the story that we're told is either totally true, totally false, or somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
Which I know is always true about all stories that we tell.
Yeah, this one
but
just
feels
feels even more,
especially true, you know?
Yeah, at some point, one source talked to Jack, and Jack told them that he would have to explain to his brother later why he made the decision to publicize his mental health struggles, continuing on to say, quote, "I was trying to help him legally, and it's the truth. I was afraid he was going to be railroaded by the government," which does not really clear up the situation at all. But just like to encourage everyone to talk about your mental health in even like the simplest ways of like, hey, I had a bad mental health day, or like, hey, I'm like, I have therapy later, you know, like even little things like that can make a big difference. And that's all I'll say about that. Anyway, Laura does talk to the FBI, and they ask her if her ex-husband, Paul Kevin Curtis, is a Republican or a Democrat, because they assume that whoever did this likely has some political issues with the people that he targeted.
Right.
And Laura says that he's a Democrat and that he's never made any indication that he dislikes President Obama. He's actually been vocal in his support of President Obama. So it's hard because now the FBI is like, okay.
He just tried to kill him.
Yeah, what's the motive here
right.
then? Yeah, and here's a quote from Casey. "I respect President Obama. I love my country and would never do anything to pose a threat to him or any other U.S. official." So the FBI is like, everything points to Paul Kevin Curtis doing this. So let's interrogate Paul Kevin Curtis. They do interrogate him for 12 hours. Per Kevin's understanding, that could be exaggerated, but 12 hours. They ask if he remembers sending letters to Steve Holland, Senator Roger Wicker, and President Barack Obama. And he says, "Yes, I've sent letters to them numerous times." And they say, "Weird thing to say when we're arresting you for attempting to murder these people."
Sure.
And they're trying to get him to admit that he sent ricin, but he never mentions poison or wanting to kill these people or anything. He immediately asks, like, "Am I here for the body parts? Am I here for like what I've posted on social media?" And they're like, No. And so finally, I think it's someone from the CIA who yells at him and says, "You tried to kill the president of the United States." And they continue on to tell him, "You are never going to see your children again because you're going to go to prison for the rest of your life." And that's kind of what breaks Kevin Curtis down, because again, his children
are his
everything.
Yeah.
And so around 8 hours in, someone else comes in, I think, again, from the CIA, and asks Kevin if he's familiar with the poison ricin. And he says, "Sir, I haven't bought rice in years. I never eat rice."
Which is actually kind of crazy, because I think there is like some Southern food that has rice in it. Like,
I know,
that's actually kind of crazy.
Like rice and beans and stuff like that. So while this is happening, they're also searching his house, and they're not finding any evidence of ricin or any of the equipment that would be needed to make ricin, one of which being like a coffee grinder to grind up the beans. And also no computer history indicating an interest in the topic, which is
not true for you
not
anymore.
Not true for me anymore. Please, no one frame me.
Well, that and like, you know, the heat signals of guns and things like that.
And like a deep interest in QAnon of a couple months ago. So the FBI and CIA and everybody is seriously confused. They're asking themselves, is Kevin playing with us? Is he lying? And slowly they begin to realize that he actually, truly, dead serious, has no idea what ricin is. Quokka, one of the FBI agents, says, quote, "Kevin Curtis just did not seem to be the person that would have the intelligence of a chemist to create ricin." Tomlinson says, quote, "There's no way this guy did this," and then laughs in the camera. Jim Johnson, the sheriff, says, quote, "There would be a lot of lab equipment. You'd have to know how it was going to be mixed. There was a lot of thought, detail, and chemistry. Kevin just did not fit the mold." Paulette, Kevin's online friend, said, quote, "You have to know what to order. You have to know how to prepare it. You'd have to wear gloves. You'd have to protect yourself. And I honestly don't think that Kevin had the wherewithal. Laura said,
it's so tough when everyone's like, no, he's dead.
Dumb.
He's so innocent. Could you imagine?
Yeah. Laura said, quote, there is no way he pulled this off. He dropped out of high school.
Oh, and she had 4 kids with him.
Yeah. Jack said, quote, I mean, this is Kevin. This is an Elvis impersonator, which is like, bro, you are too.
Excellent point. Excellent point being made.
All good points all around. So they eventually come back to the interrogation room, and they all kind of outside agree, like, okay, there's a chance this guy didn't do this. Right. We can't like totally eliminate him, but we do maybe need to start going down other roads.
Right.
They're like, do you have any enemies? They asked them to his friends and family as well. And everyone has the same answer. James Everett Dutschke.
Right.
He's a Mensa member.
I forgot.
I know. They all do. Yeah.
I actually thought the Everett thing was so not weird that you brought it up, but I was like, okay, well, that was kind of a long side plot character.
I intentionally tried to put it so it would be
good
less.
for
Thank
you.
Thank you. Steve Holland is... So when they do this, like they have all of the people that they're interviewing kind of say, Dutschke, it's Dutschke. And then Steve Holland goes, Dershke. And then he like pauses, he says, Dutschke. Excuse me, we all call him douchebag. What?
I like Steve.
I love him so much. Anyway, you might be thinking that finally we've gotten out of the realm of musical impersonators because at least Everett doesn't do that. Wrong. He is also a Wayne Newton impersonator.
Okay.
It's all
okay.
fucking crazy. With all that being said, the FBI can't officially eliminate Kevin yet because all the evidence that they do have is still pointing to him. So April 18th, upon inspecting the letters, we know that there is no return address, but there are indentations where someone had written on a sheet above the envelope, and that address is an old address of Paul Kevin Curtis. And so,
are you kidding me? You wrote this letter on top of something that has your address on it?
And so Adrian Tomlinson is like starting to think that all of this is becoming too convenient.
Right.
And so it leads him to think that Kevin is being framed. So whoever did this in an effort to frame Kevin made it too obvious that anyway, whatever. Quokka receives an anonymous tip that there's a man in town who once told them that if they ever wanted to take out any of these politicians, just send them poison in the mail and take care of it. That man was James Everett Dutschke.
Right, of course it was.
Yeah. Yeah, this is the same man that Kevin was telling the agents A had something against him and B was capable of something like this. So the FBI start putting all of their efforts on Everett because they're running out of time. And Quokka says, quote, when you meet Everett Dutschke, you immediately sense that he's arrogant, but then you realize he has no conscience, nor does he have a soul. Tomlinson says, quote, during my 25 years in the Bureau, I interviewed numerous terrorists, 7 different murderers, 1 serial killer, but I don't think I ever talked to anybody that would fit into the category of Everett Dutschke.
Oh.
April 19th, Paul Kevin Curtis remains in custody and appears in court. The FBI continues to say that they've got their man, at least to the media, but have yet to provide any physical proof for the record. April 22nd, they're truly starting to get desperate for any kind of evidence. And so they decide to do a trash pull on Everett's house, which is usually something that police will do when it's rare that it is successful, but there's a chance. And so they wait until his house is clear, and then they go and like literally replace his garbage can with like another one, and then take his whatever. And then they go to Quokka's house and dump everything out and start going through it. And they find paper, like printer paper, that is identical to the yellowish paper that was used for the threat letter.
Okay.
And then the FBI now officially has cause to surveil Everett, and so they keep people watching him. They see him walk out of the back of the dojang and throw out a box. And so, of course, they go and retrieve the box, and it's a Black & Decker coffee grinder, something someone who is making ricin would most likely have from grinding up castor seeds. Oh. And at this point, they are more than certain that this was Everett's doing, but they still need a motive. I do believe they also find personal protective equipment, so like masks and gloves and stuff like that. Quokka says, how do you go from a feud with a former friend to sending ricin to the president of the United States?
Right.
And then they start doing more digging and come across the online evidence of the feud. At some point, someone's asking Everett about the feud while Kevin is still in custody. And Everett says, what feud? This guy was so far beneath me. I mean, can Genghis Khan feud with a fire ant?
Kevin says that?
No. Everett says that.
Oh, okay.
This next part is called Feuding Fire Ants.
Good.
Trigger warning, there will be a brief mention of assault/sexual harassment of a minor in just a few bullets. So, Everett, while he's going around with his band, Robodrum, in 2012, he also gets in trouble with the law. This is another part where the doc is seems a little inconsistent with their timeline. The doc makes it seem like Everett was doing the band while he was also campaigning, but I don't think that's true. I think he started the band after the campaign was over and lost.
Okay. 2012, yeah.
Yeah. And so a man is apprehended for playing with himself in front of children.
Oh.
There's, I think, 3 counts that are put against Everett, 2 of which are fines for him, and another one which he has to get indicted for. The 2 are public indecency, and I believe what was happening is children were getting off of like a school bus in front of his house, and he was shining a light or something so that it would get their attention and look at him, and he would be naked. And so that way he had the option to say like, oh, I didn't like mean for that to or like they were looking at me unprompted and stuff like that. There was another charge where he was, I believe, had inappropriately touched some of his students at the dojo. And that's all we'll talk about when it comes to that. So if you were skipping, he is interviewed at some point in this whole thing, and he says, quote, "This very small molehill has been blown way out of proportion and has become a mountain of unsurmountable proportions," which is not a word, by the way. "I'm very eager to clear my name." When Kevin finds out that Everett has been charged, Kevin is thrilled. Laura said she had never seen him that happy. I think the story was that they were at dinner together, and she tells him, and he literally jumps out of his booth and is like dancing.
Yeah, I could see Kevin being fun when he's fun.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. And Laura asked him, "Did you frame him for this?" And he said, "No, but I wish I did." What?
I'm not that smart. I dropped out of high school.
And so Kevin starts going all over the internet.
Of course he does.
Yeah, saying things like on some of Everett's like YouTube videos saying, "Looking forward to seeing you in court," and stuff like that. And so this whole thing is just a tiny part of an online feud that they have. Just to like be super clear, Everett is charged with all of those things. I think he has to pay a trial and then pay fines for the indecent exposure charges, and then he gets indicted for the other one, and then is released on bail. It was like an expensive bail. I think it was like $25,000 or something like that. Oof. So he's released, and he gets released on April 1st of 2013.
Okay.
That's 10 days before Sadie Holland receives her letter. 7 days before all of those ricin letters were mailed. So just to go back to like some of their online feuding again. Kevin sees Everett's Taekwondo videos on MySpace, and he begins taking karate lessons himself and is practicing in his living room, and he posts those videos online too. Supposedly, this is in response to Kevin seeing Everett's success with Robodrum, feeling like he had encroached on Kevin's space as like a performer. And so he's like, I can do what you do too. At some point, Everett walks into the insurance office while Kevin is there, and Everett says very seriously, "Kevin, you were right. They were selling body parts." And Kevin is like, what do you mean? And Everett pulls out a bag of edible gummy body parts. And Kevin's pissed.
That's actually quite funny, though. Yeah. That's really good.
Yeah. Kevin makes a fake Facebook account, I think called Billy Bob. And then he posts photos of Kevin's partner, Janet, like just photos that she had online, not anything inappropriate. And then he also takes like
Everett does that?
Kevin does this for Everett's family.
Okay.
And he also takes Everett's family's photos and photoshops his own face onto Everett's face. Everett says that during this whole feud, Kevin became what he calls a Dutschke impersonator. Kevin has photos of him in a Taekwondo uniform. Everett takes a lot of offense to this because he's never taken Taekwondo.
Right.
He starts dressing like Everett. There's photos of him in like a business suit, like doing that same like gross like face to the camera. He even starts copying some of Everett's phrases from videos. So when Everett was campaigning, he would post a lot of videos, and at the end he would say, "I am Everett Dutschke and I approve this message." And so Kevin started doing the same thing, even to like the stupidest little videos, like, "Look, there's police outside of my place," and then pans to him, "I am KC and I approve this message." And so Jim, the sheriff, said it was very strange behavior. It was almost infatuation.
Nice.
I mean, they now kith. Yeah.
Like already making the hand gesture.
Yeah. Everett started questioning Casey's MySpace followers for more information on him. There's screenshots of him asking people, "Have you met him in person? Do you know who he is? What do you know about him?" So Kevin posts a video taken of his computer screen showing that his MySpace account showed that Everett had viewed it 70 times that day.
Oh my God. No. 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 Jump.
Yeah.
Just get out of there.
That's horrifying.
Kevin's kind of the perfect mean girl. Like
he's like just dumb enough to do the thing.
He knows the correct proportional response to all of Everett's stuff, and he knows how to get under his skin.
He gets under his skin so well. Yeah.
Especially now that I know that for all his faults, Kevin did not try to poison
he did not try to poison.
And spoiler alert for those who haven't connected the dots together, the man who did try to poison the president
was Everett Dutschke.
Oh, and also a kind of like a registered sex offender.
Yes, we can make fun of him.
We have our hero in the story, friends. Last chapters, it comes out. What a great novel. Yeah.
Kevin keeps taunting him on social media, saying, "At Everett, you are a spineless coward, a scared little pussycat, and a washed-up Republican wannabe." I believe that's in response to him not interviewing him for his newspaper. Here's a post from Everett. I love this. This is read by one of the FBI agents, and it's read so deadpan. It's so funny.
This is Everett talking about
to Kevin. Okay. "You, sir, are a dumbass. I'm ready to man up any time or day. Dumbass. One of us plays Six Flags, yet the other makes up bullshit stories about going on tour with Carrie Underwood. Dumbass." That's how the FBI agent read it, and it was so good.
I love that playing at Six Flags is the flex there,
it's
too.
Like, bro.
Like,
I don't know if there's a bar there.
You're right, but you're not.
Yeah. Like, Everett also says, no one actually respects you, no one actually respects, Elvis impersonators. They're like one step above a party clown. I believe that is actually...
Maybe not in northern Mississippi.
So any quote that I've had from Everett, like, spoiler, he gets arrested because he's the one that did this. Any quote that I have from Everett is over the phone from jail. And so that's a quote that's literally over the phone from prison, where he says, no one respects... No, that was on... social media. This one, no one respects Elvis impersonators, is made on a prison phone. So Kevin's next big move, remember Mensa?
Yes, of course I do.
He posts a photoshopped Mensa certificate claiming that he's a member.
And now you've crossed the line.
That literally is described by everyone as the final straw for Everett.
No, that's so fucking stupid. Imagine going to jail for the rest of your life because someone was like, "I also smart," and you're like, "No, you're not."
Imagine attempting to assassinate the president of the United States.
Like, actually trying to assassinate them.
Someone was like, "I'm smart too."
and like isn't smart enough to get it by nature of photoshopping it. And so it was instead just mocking you. And you're like, I'm going to kill the president of the United States. And Roger Wicker.
And also Sadie Holland for some reason.
Steve, I don't want to mess with Steve. I might have ran against him and called him Haas Bog Haas, dog man. He's a good guy though.
Yeah, he's okay.
I don't want to run the risk with him. He took care of Gladys.
Steve thinks that Everett targeted Sadie because that Everett knew how much of a mama's boy he was, and he said hurting my mom would hurt me more.
Sure.
Anyway.
Well, also, Sadie Holland did make him get on his knees and apologize for lying so badly.
I think there was also
some motivations.
Other court issue that Everett had.
Crazy how Everett just ties it all up so nicely.
So funny. Okay, so Kevin had been trying to get Everett's attention, and so he can't get his attention. He is trying to call him or whatever, and so he posts a fake Mensa certificate, and within 30 minutes he gets an email from Everett saying, "I'm giving you 1 day to remove your fraudulent claims from your website." By the way, Kevin, you cannot be both a genius and an R word at the same time. You were given your last chance. You blew it. J. Everett Dutschke, man up, dumbass.
This is it. This is me announcing my motive. You've done it. Save this email. I'm out.
Just stop talking. Everett claims that he was in charge of the memberships for Mensa, so that's how he was able to check that Kevin wasn't a Mensa member. Everett,
that's really sad. Of course Kevin's not a member of Mensa. He doesn't have $30. Of course he's not a member of Mensa.
Mensa had to say Everett's a member, but he's never been an officer.
When you fuck up so badly, an organization like Mensa has to issue a statement distancing themselves.
Yeah, you really fucked up, buddy. Everett responds to Kevin not taking down the fake certificate with an invitation to meet him for a fight at the Tojang. Kevin says that he shows up and Everett's not there.
Right.
Everett claims he was there and Kevin never showed up.
Right.
So
Classic.
I don't think actually either of them were there.
Dogs barking at each other, but then someone opened up the gate and they were like, whoa.
Oh, shit. Literally. So, yeah, this next section, true identity. Everett maintains that he knew nothing about the ricin lace letters, nor did he know anything about the ingredients for ricin. When he found out the charges against Kevin had been dropped.
I haven't had rice in years, sorry. At the time when you pitch it, I'm still a little confused, but obviously you've done we're all kind of thinking it's Kevin, so I'm like, what kind of a brilliant thing to say under investigation. But now that you know,
he literally had no idea.
I'm like, wait, that was the fucking truth. And it's like that's just such, sir, I haven't had rice in years.
I want to see the FBI agent who's sleep deprived in the back room behind the mirror, who's just
we'll be right back. What am I supposed to do with this guy? I can't crack him. I haven't had rice in years. Is that a clue? Are we sure we searched his house? I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't think this guy knows what poison is. I haven't had rice in years. I'm more of a potato man, or I just don't eat properly.
Yes.
Steak with ranch.
Okay. Listening to Dolly Parton. The FBI are boom. And he's fuck.
But in some ways I hope, and I'm sure you're going to tell us a little bit, in some ways I hope this is kind of Kevin's rock bottom. I've been so off base they think I tried to assassinate the president. They're the first people who's ever taken me seriously. And I'm out of my league.
I thought they were talking about race. Okay. True identity. So Everett finds out that the charges are dropped against Kevin, and his response to the news reporter that told him that is, "I'm a little shocked."
That's interesting.
Wait a minute.
Do they have another suspect in mind?
Yeah.
That's really interesting.
Yeah.
You told me that for the first time.
So April 23rd, Everett records a video telling people, I don't know what people, to be fair, it seems like a home video, about the situation, and saying that he has consented to a search by the FBI, and also affirming that he has nothing to do with this. He says, quote, "I don't hardly know the guy," referring to Kevin. "In fact, we've only met on 2 occasions. I don't know him very well at all. I don't know anything about this." It's like,
I have no idea what they would be doing here.
Thomason remembers asking him very pointed questions like, "Do you have a coffee grinder?" And Everett would get really flustered and say things like, hey, you need to refocus. Let's get this thing back to Kevin Curtis."
Don't ask me if I do or don't have a coffee grinder. Ask instead with that freak Kevin, who I've only ever met twice.
And absolutely have nothing against. Don't look at my Facebook.
Did you know he's not actually a Mensa member?
Yeah.
That's a serious thing. That's a crime you should investigate. Like, refuse to make eye contact.
Yeah. Thomason also remembers seeing how excited Everett seemed to be in preparation to do the TV interview, like during the FBI search. And so that photo I showed you is him while he's outside, while the FBI are actively searching his home.
Good. Oh.
Let's just take a look at that one more time. Oof. Because it's...
Yikes. To think
this man is actively being searched by the FBI.
That man tried to kill the president of the United States. So in many ways, he was on his way to a funeral.
Okay, so you want to know the funniest part that I didn't really put together until the end? So I had figured that he had mailed like a test letter to Sadie Holland and then realized that the ricin wasn't potent enough because she had opened it. Mm. What I now realize is that he mailed all of them together,
right?
Meaning that none of that ricin was potent at all, and he wouldn't have killed anyone.
But hold on, because touching it is okay.
She like smelled it.
Oh. So it's literally attempted murder with a butter knife.
Yeah.
Kind of stuff.
Steve, I tried to like kind of bury that lead just a little bit, but yeah, she smelled it and was like, "This smells weird." And that's like, she went to the ER, and then Steve Holland said that she said her nose felt a little tingly, but was, I mean, she lived to 2020, so right. She was fine.
Lived for a little while.
And so it's so funny to me that this man tried so hard not only to assassinate people,
but to frame someone else for
an assassination that would have never worked.
Right.
Incredible. Okay. So the FBI also seizes his computers. They find manuals about ricin on them and also find that he had ordered 100 castor beans from someone in Illinois. They find...
Who's just selling it?
I guess. I don't know.
Okay.
I mean, you can buy drugs anywhere. I assume you can buy things to make castor oil. Allegedly. They have 5 different ricin hits from around his place. I think they just picked like 5 spots to like test and like
every single time.
I think I don't know if it was 5 or more, but anyway, they found gloves and mask. The gloves and mask required for making it. When he's being interviewed by the media, they ask if the FBI will find anything suspicious, and he says everybody has something suspicious in their house, but no, nothing that's related to these letters. You are actively being investigated.
No, I hid all the evidence, so you're going to have a hard time finding it.
What? He also denies that he was ever at the Dojang the day that the FBI saw him throw away the coffee grinder, which is like...
You mean when I saw you?
Yeah, they have the coffee grinder, babes. Kwake said that Everett is someone who always thinks he's the smartest person in any room, right, which made him overconfident and gave him substantial weaknesses. The FBI also found that he had grudges against all 3 individuals who received letters. An email from Everett, the FBI found, said something like, "I really wanted to kill Holland, but it would hurt him more to kill his mother." Which is rough. There it is.
He was right about that.
Yep. He thought Obama was a horrible person, and he thought Obama would bring the world down. He disliked Wicker because of the way the Republican Party treated him after he lost. So coincidentally, he had a bunch of enemies, and he was able to figure out that Kevin had a similar list of people he disliked. Right. And he was like, let's round all this up into one move and get rid of everyone I dislike and get rid of the person that I dislike who dislikes them. Yeah. So Paul Kevin Curtis was released and the charges dropped, I believe, on the 23rd. Kevin was thrilled when he came back because he realized that all this attention had actually brought a lot of attention to his YouTube page.
And he approves that message.
And he does approve that message. I mean, a lot of it is conspiracy theory stuff. So, he also said he's a
complicated anti-hero.
Yeah. At some point, they have a video of him as he's like walking out of prison with his lawyer. And the media asks him if he has any comment. And he turns to his lawyer. I can't remember her name. Her last name is McCoy. But he's like, can I talk about my book or should I just keep this on message? She says, I think we should just keep this on the events of today.
Can I talk about my book? No, I don't think so.
He also says he's a licensed reflexologist and he would, I don't know what that is. And he would donate 100,000 hours to any woman who needs a foot massage.
Our foot king persists. He says this as he's walking out of prison.
I think this is part of his written statement.
After beating a charge of attempted presidential assassination, he was like, my name's Kevin Curtis. I love women. You should know that about me. I have a book. You can find me on YouTube.
And I'll give you a massage.
I'm Feet King. Picks up missing pieces. 25. At YouTube.
It's so insane. And on the 27th, so what's that, 4 days later, James Everett Dutschke is arrested officially. Everett's indicted by a grand jury and sentenced.
I mean, you gotta when they let Kevin out,
you gotta know it's over
you gotta
for
flee
you.
the country, babes. You're in Mississippi. Get to the coast. Get out of there. It's coming down.
Another article that I read, but I didn't really transcribe into this, that said he was trying to evade media, but not the FBI.
What?
And the media are tailing him. So the entire article is just them tailing him,
right? And
they're just watching all the crazy ass shit that he's doing. Like at one point they watch him get into the back of a car and his friend cover him up with a blanket and then he drives away.
You and me.
It's like, bro, what?
Get down to Houston, get lost in that mess for a second, and then get yourself to Mexico.
He had time. He gets sentenced to 25 years in federal prison. There's big news. Even Rachel Maddow reports on this next piece. Kevin's reunited with Moo Cow.
I'm really happy for him.
I think Moo Cow had been sent to the pound, and so Jack had to pay the $200 to get him out.
That'll bankrupt him.
I know.
Also, they did not need to tranquilize that chihuahua.
No, they didn't. So funny. This is a quote from Everett. Quote, "The people of Tupelo, they're fiercely abnormal, unnatural beings. They're carnies that I could never make sense out of because nothing there is normal. Here's the thing. If you're not careful, you're going to find yourself kidnapped, like me, captured by the carny freaks that are there, and then developing an affinity for these backbiting, disloyal, highly dysfunctional soap opera characters. And then you'll learn too late that you really end up loving those carnies. They end up becoming like a second family. I guess that's something I miss." And then Steve Holland.
Wait, that was a quote from Kevin?
That was a quote from Everett in jail on the phone.
Whoa.
At some point, too, he says to the interviewer, he's complaining about how bad life is there and how he thinks he's still been framed and all this shit. And then he goes, "Anyway, I got to see the finale of American Idol last night. And the person who I thought should win won. And so some things are right with the world." And it's like,
oh, that is bleak.
What?
Just watching American Idol, that is bleak.
It's rough, buddy. So Steve Holland says, referring to Everett, "And if I'm still around when he gets out, hell, he can come eat with me. He can come to a party at the farm on a Sunday night and I'll say, 'This is my old buddy, Everett Dutschke.'" He still pronounced that last name wrong, by the way. He got out of the pen, thank God. This was after he did a monologue saying it makes me sad to think that someone that smart used his talents that way and makes me wonder if he ever experienced real human connection. And it's played over a montage of Steve having dinner with a bunch of his friends at his church, and then Laura and Jack and Kevin all having dinner together with their kids. Dude, the docuseries is incredible. Double Trouble performed together at the end of the docuseries after 20 years of not performing together. Kevin said, "When I started out writing my screenplay, all I had were missing pieces, and I couldn't make any sense of anything. But through this process, I discovered the missing piece is your family, the connection with your children, your mother, your father, your brother. Now I had to do several rewrites. The story began missing pieces. But guess what? It's going to end with, there are no missing pieces, and I know what's important now." He ends saying he's no longer a part of the world of conspiracy, and he has retired the sword of justice. Here is a photo of the crew. I don't think this has Jack in it, but this is Kevin Curtis, and that is Laura, and then his daughters and his daughter and some of his sons are in that photo as well. That's the night that they recorded.
For a man who has lived the way Kevin Curtis has, he actually looks great in that photo. Like, looks way younger than Laura or his brother.
Right? I don't think his brother's in that photo.
Is this not Jack?
No, that's Kevin.
This is Kevin. Okay. Well, all right then.
Yeah.
His son looks a lot like him. His son looks a lot like him. I'm looking at this and I'm like, whoa,
that's his son.
What is his skincare routine? I guess it really is not going out in the sun and being on your computer, but wow. This is an adorable
I got from
photo.
Laura's Facebook, and if you scroll down, there is one more.
Okay, 1 second.
Yeah. That's from his daughter's Instagram, but Laura was tagged in it, which is how I found it. But that's
One night only.
the
Double
poster
trouble.
advertising. I think that's one
Funny.
of the promo photos that they took in preparation for the 2003 concert. And then there's a link to some Facebook videos that we can watch.
And your sources.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, there's a couple more things I want to talk about. We're not done. Don't worry.
Yeah, they're pretty good.
Right? You can see the Netflix camera people.
Wonder why my heart wins. All that no it does. When I wonder why I love you, baby. You see, so just be my
You are on her Facebook page right now. This is a video that has 2 likes on Facebook.
I don't know what you want from me.
It's like, I did 1 investigative journalism piece. 2, kind of. And you're like, I want to steal the Constitution of the United States. I'm going to find this woman's private Facebook.
It's not private. It was so easy to find. This one has a comment on it, at least.
Still only 2 likes. Yeah, they kill it.
tears keep flowing. The desk clerk's dressed in black. Well, it been so long down the lonely street.
He's got that quiver of the king. Okay, I'm sorry, but that's not quite the end. Okay, so that was recorded, I believe, in February of 2023.
Okay.
And then 9 months later, so that puts us at about November 2024, Kevin said he Googled Everett's case. And he comes up with a picture of the attorney general with the husband of Kevin's lawyer, who is Christy McCoy, at a party. So his lawyer's husband was at a party with the attorney general. And so now he's put together that there must be a conspiracy. And Everett was also framed for framing Kevin.
What?
He thinks Everett, because of how smart he was and how weird, I don't know, that Everett was an operative of the CIA. Everett is quoted saying, "You have to understand, the 2013 ricin letters is far, far bigger than Kevin Curtis. In September of 2012, I was working counterintelligence. CIA, motherfucker, you're still in jail. How? CIA and was given dangerous information about operational funding of terrorism. Or sorry, that was 2012, so a year before he did this. The financial ties that I was given were very, very damaging to the Obama administration officials, and I refused to relinquish them. No, Kevin Curtis is not a part of this. He was just a low-level patsy in the whole scheme. And meanwhile, it's like cutting in between Everett saying Kevin Curtis was not involved, and Kevin like on his computer being like, and I think, and he's like still red stringing things together, and Everett's just like, no.
Because Kevin's like, no, it's an inside job.
It's an inside job, and now we should work
Oh
together. He sent an email to Everett saying, it's becoming increasingly clear that larger, more powerful group is pulling the strings, and it's high time we expose them. We should team up and finally become the real double trouble of Northeast Mississippi, tearing down corruption one kick at a time. I am KC, and I approve this message. And
Mensa member.
can you imagine? And that is the end of the story.
Well, conspiracy is hard to give up.
Yeah,
so
it
I
is.
can't say I'm shocked.
He also,
addiction is addiction.
Whenever they interview him in the docuseries, it says like undisclosed location. I think he had to move out of like Mississippi because he was getting too much attention after 2013. Like he said people would stop him and ask like, hey, are you an Elvis impersonator? Like, did you get in some trouble in 2013? Because people recognize his face. People always recognize him for being the person that perpetrated the crime, but they didn't follow along
that was then exonerated
long enough. Yeah. And so.
Well, that's a complicated story.
It's so funny.
What's the name of the Netflix documentary?
Kings of Tupelo.
How many episodes is it?
3.
Okay.
You have to watch. It's so good.
I'm not gonna lie. We'll figure out when we're gonna record Patreon this weekend, and then I might for reals like kind of dip out of the radar for a little bit. I have a Red Rocks concert with Tyler tomorrow, which I am looking forward to. But then I'm like tired. I like want to get caught up on sleep, and I just bought this house, so I want to spend.
Do you still want to
there.
record next week?
Yeah, on Monday.
Oh, okay,
yeah, that'll be fine.
Yeah, okay, cool.
But all this is to say, I think I will be watching this weekend.
You have to. It's
yeah.
I've watched it.
It's beautiful cinematography.
I watched it 3 times before watching it for this. Like I watched it the first time and I was like, oh my God. And then I watched it the second time. I was like, and then the third time I was like, okay, I'm going to watch it. It's like preparation for like putting together these notes. And then I watched it for this time when I actually took all the
So you've
notes.
watched it 4 times.
And it was good every time.
Okay, good to know.
It was good every time.
That's fantastic.
Dude, the characters are, I'm obsessed with Steve Holland. He has some zingers. He has
that aura, as the kids might say.
As the kids. Shut up. What was that?
If you don't know it, then I don't need to explain it to you.
You do.
It's the big 2-5. I don't need to tell anything to you right now. There's this like whole other side to my life, and it's called being
you don't do a good job
being
of
a
hiding
high school
it.
teacher.
Whatever.
Thank you for putting that story together, though. It was nice.
I had a good time.
Good. Thank you for joining us, listeners. We appreciate it. We published our 100th episode today. So this will be episode 103 or 104, wherever we are in the
I'm
cadence.
always odds. You're always evens.
Cool. Even with the listener story?
Yeah, because it always evens out. Get it? But because you sometimes do first episodes and then I do second episodes.
Oh,
so
fun.
It always works out that you're even, I'm on.
Great.
Yeah.
Anyways, today was our 100th.
Yeah.
Still learning things about all this. Thank you for being with us throughout this process so far.
Love you.
I'm excited for my next part, and then we have listener stories, and then the one after that is Bump in the Night. So here's to 100 more, and what this looks like then.
What?
Yeah, I know. Let's get to 105.
Yeah.
We'll take it a day at a time. But you can find us on social media where we are Well I Laughed. You can email us some of those listener stories at wellilaughdpod@gmail.com, or you can visit our website, wellilaughed.com, where we have a couple of forms you can use to submit topic suggestions or listener stories. We are also available on Patreon, where you get an additional episode every week and access to the Discord. And then finally, with Easter around the corner, nothing is better to wish your grandmother.
After Easter.
Nothing's better to wish your loved ones a happy Easter than a video from us. Both raised, reformed, rejected Lutherans would love to wish your family a happy deviled eggs day. And that's on Cameo. I don't know if I've actually said the words yet or not.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
a Cameo request you can make. Other than that, friends, thanks for joining us. And see you next week.
Love you. Bye.
Bye.